broke. Here are some ways you can use broke. 1. Intense experience. 2. Broken or torn. 3. Break, bust. I going broke your face. Oh, wow. My new dress stay broke.
Please, babe. We gotta start. This is not a proper intro.
Oh, my bad.
Oh my god.
Just learning some pidgin.
You're so fire. What is this? Pigeon to the max?
Pigeon to the max.
No. We're done here. We're gonna do the intro now. You're fired again. Thank you for those of you that listened to our first episode in our 2-episode series on drifting in Hawaii. And I'm not doing the intro. This guy for sure is not doing the intro. I have another person we're calling. And Benson doesn't even know who I'm going to call. But Mark, here we go. Please dial this one up. This is a good one.
Got it.
All right.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey,
Jason.
Hey, how's it, guys? Hey, how's you?
How's it?
How's everything? How's the ohana?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, we're good, man.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why, but when I say ohana, I like to just roll my shoulders like that.
I like
do some
that.
hula?
I can do that.
Good. Okay. Shoots.
Shoots. Oh, wait. Isn't the shoots by?
Shoots is good. Shoots is
Shoots
good.
is
Like
good?
Shoots is like okay.
Shoots is like everything, I feel like.
know.
Like that's like aloha, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
I don't know anything. But guys, welcome Jason Ryan to the Salady Mania podcast. Jason, I'm nominating you to do our intro for episode 2 of our Hawaii drifting series. Are you down?
I'm gonna say shoots.
Okay, I think that's a yes. So we're going to kick it off. Ready? 3, 2, 1, and let's go.
Oh, how's it, brother? Welcome to today's show. Today's forecast is nice, kind sunshine and 100% chance burn rubber. So grab one seat for your okole, kick off your slippers, and relax X-lax as we holo with the ohana of the Sil 80 Mania podcast.
Nice.
Woo! I love it. Thank you so much.
Hold on, wiping sweat.
Okole.
Okay.
I know that one. I like that one. That's
What is okole, Nadine? What is okole?
Your butthole.
Oh, that's not... Okay, hold on. It is not the hole.
Okay.
The hole is a
Fine.
different...
Okay. Can you give us a little bit of a lesson
Sure. What you like?
on the body parts? So what's the booty?
Oh, okole.
Okay. What's the hole?
Oh my gosh.
Okole ho.
Okay. Well, okay. Do you know why I called Jason to do this?
Do I know why?
Yeah.
Because he's awesome?
Yeah. Jason's awesome. And
Because he's an old friend?
You know what's really cool? Jason's our old friend. And what's really cool is we hung out with Jason last year and he took our family photos. And I want to show you guys on the YouTube video right about here and here. Oh my gosh. Jason is such a talented photographer. But before that, he dabbled a little bit in video. So tell everybody, Honey Buns.
Yeah, so we met... I don't remember the moment we met, Jason, but I
Uh-oh.
remember you were around a lot at the Formula D events. The very first season of Formula D, and even before that, I met you before Formula D. You were doing like the grassroots events, some competitions, and you were working for Grip Video. You were one of the founding fathers and integral members of Grip Video, and you were the videographer, yeah?
So that makes me feel really old. Because that actually was quite a ways ago. You think about where drifting is today.
Yeah.
You know? To think about back then being grassroots, people within California doing it on that grassroots level, people in Hawaii. I think we met at a Club 4A G Day, with Moto Miwa guys. So way before Formula D, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, drift days.
Yep. And I don't know, we just got along really well. You put that camera in my face a lot and got me doing some really embarrassing things.
Thank you for that.
Nobody
Anytime.
Nobody look that
sorry.
stuff up, please.
Do you remember the footage with the hula girl? Like, hey guys, look at my hula girl. And then you showed
No.
the hula girl on your
No,
toe hook.
we're not
and
talking
you
about
made
I
her
don't
that.
know if
dance.
that was like, was that our second video? Or...
I don't know, but I was like my fave.
So I was one of the original owners. So me, Mike, and Dave, all three of us did videography. We all three of us did everything. There's only three of us. It was pretty crazy, you know. So
Yeah.
but it was awesome to meet you guys and to kind of be a part of and witness drifting growing in America within such a short time. And you guys were such an integral part of that. You guys are like the root of all of that. So it's really cool to be on this podcast with you guys and talk about it and kind of reminisce about those days. Because it really was the inception of some really amazing big things, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
who would have thought that it would have blown up that fast?
Yeah. You were kind of like at the forefront and documenting all the huge growth that just the drifting in general had. That's just crazy. And you were kind of our line to drifting in Hawaii too. We got to see everything. So
Yeah, so
Thank you for
speaking of which, what year did Grip Video start?
So we started, I want to say 2001.
Okay.
So me, Mike, and Dave were working at speedhawaii.com, which was like a local car culture media website. It was like one of the first ones, and then Alex Cam and all their guys came out with their sites. Initially, Mike was one of the founders of Speed Hawaii, and this guy Fareed had eventually bought it out from the actual owner. And we kept wanting to do bigger and better things, but we were kind of constrained by that situation. So we decided to all leave together and start Grip Video.
Oh, the history, the Three Musketeers.
And so when you guys started recording Grip Video, can you tell us what was it like in the early days of Drift Session?
So, I mean, we had Hawaii Raceway Park at the time, which we don't anymore. And Shimo's just ran it, you know. You know what's interesting is looking at Club 4AG, where you guys had like different sections for different levels of experience. So you guys had, you know, basically your donut section, right? And then you had your cones for guys who actually can start going through the turns. And it's kind of interesting because I don't really remember having that too much. He would do a few lessons, maybe with Steve Oliberos and some of those guys, but then other than that, they would kind of have free reign through the course. So Shimokawa, you know, he ran things pretty legit in the sense that if you're gonna come to Drift Session, you're gonna drift at Drift Session. You're not, you know, he discouraged street drifting, but there was a ton of drifting here on the street. Tantless, of course, you know, is pretty famous in Hawaii. Everybody was on Tantless drifting. I used to live below Tantless. And back in the day, like I wasn't into cars till I was like, I don't know, 23, 24, really, maybe. But even when I was younger, I used to go party in club all night, whatever. And then I'd come home to my house below Tantless. And I'd lie in the driveway because my house is super hot and the driveway is nice and cool after you've been partying all night. And I'd hear everybody drifting on dark side Tantless.
Yeah.
You just hear all the screeching, all the revving of engines.
Oh,
it was
that's
kind of
dope.
interesting. As meanwhile, Steve Oliberos guys were like drifting in Mokuleia and a point side on the North Shore, you know.
Yeah.
But a lot of guys, there's still areas here where guys have kind of learned and they go out here in different places and they rip it in areas where there's no residences, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know that I think that's always going to happen when you don't have a legal place to do what you want to do.
100%, man. Drift Session made a huge difference. And you think about the guys drifting street versus the guys drifting track, right? All the guys who are drifting track, those are the names we know. Those
Yes.
are the guys that got exposure. Those are the guys that really knew what they were doing. And some of those guys went on to compete in Formula D and other type of pro events, right?
Yep.
We don't really hear that too much about the street guys.
Right.
You know, when I think about Japan, I find it interesting because a lot of those guys get really serious. They do track drifting. They do street. And they do street to help prepare for the track. But, you know, a lot of times growing up, a lot of guys who were doing street weren't just weren't really into the whole idea of being on a track. And unfortunately, I think they lost out, on that really good like that experience, that education, the motivation that comes from being around people who drift at that level. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Street drifting, I think, when it comes to drifting, being a drifting enthusiast, that's always that's a hard thing to, it's a hard thing to reason with yourself, because it's so sick to watch, right? And there's a high that comes with it. But then on the other hand, we're human beings with we care about each other, and we don't want anyone to get hurt. And so, it's just it's hard to reconcile that, for me at least, and I'm sure for a lot of people. But I think it's always going to be like that. I think it's like skateboarding, right? I mean, I'm sure there are people that skateboard at skate parks all the time, but there's just something about doing it where you're not supposed to do it. I don't know.
You guys are so serious. I'm gonna lighten it up. I asked the light hitting questions.
Yeah.
I will be as light yet dramatic as possible.
Okay, intriguing. Let's do this. No, you've seen a lot, because you've seen drifting in Hawaii, you've seen it in like the States, and you've seen it in Japan, right? But going back to your time, documenting in Hawaii, tell me, what was your most memorable moment that you captured or that you were a part of? It doesn't even have to be on group video, just like what kind of sticks with you still?
You know what? Oh man, dude. This makes me emotional.
Uh-oh.
I think what was super cool was bringing Komatsu from Signal Auto to drift against the guy, or drift with and drift against the guys in Hawaii, man. And I remember talking to Kosuke at Tokyo Auto Salon and talking to Ken from Import Show Off in Pasadena about it. And then talking to the guys at Hypersports about it, Travis guys, and Shimokawa, getting it all together. Eurosport chipped in, and everybody chipped in and spent thousands of dollars to get Signal Auto down here. And just the look on everyone's face to be drifting all this time, but never to watch these videos, but never drift with their heroes, and to have one of them come down here, drift alongside them to compete, just for fun, to help teach them, like, man, dude, we knew it was the start of something big, but we didn't realize how big that was going to be until we did our second event with Komatsu. It was just incredible,
I was talking to Dave Shimokawa, and I was asking him about that event, and I said, "How did you guys get Komatsu here, or there to HRP?" And he was thinking about it. He didn't quite remember, but he's like, "I think Jason Ryan got him here."
Oh.
So what happened was I had talked to Kosuke about it. And Kosuke, him and I met him at Tokyo Auto Salon. We're talking for a bit. I'm like, yeah, man, we'd love to have you guys there. And Kosuke being Kosuke, he's such a good guy. He's like, yeah, it'd be great to do it. But I don't know if he realized I was dead serious. I don't know if I realized I was dead serious. I'm pretty sure I was like, this sounds great. Can I pull this off? I have no idea. Let's just throw it out there, dude. And then when I saw Ken Miyoshi, him and I were talking about it. And I told him my idea. And Ken's like, oh, yeah, I've been thinking about that for a while. And I'm like, wait, what? But Ken was like, yeah, let's make it happen. And Ken, aside from being one of the pioneers of the pioneer of import car shows, he was also the pioneer here. Import Show Off was really one of the first, if not the first, car show that we had in Hawaii for import cars. Ken kind of helped build the whole scene here. So I came back, and Mike was working at Hypersports. We talked to Hypersports, talked to Eurosport. We put everybody together. Ken kind of helped headed the whole thing, and we got him down. So, I talked to them, but I helped connect the dots. It's really Ken, I think, that really just kind of had enough of the trust between the different the different businesses to get everybody to get together and make it happen. Especially with the fact that we brought him down during an import show off, Hypersports always runs the import show off with Kemiyoshi every year. So it was just like the perfect storm, man.
Yeah.
You know, Dave Shimos, he was just like, yeah, sure. Okay, whatever. Let's do it. Like, this is incredible, right? So we were super stoked.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
thank you for that. Because
Yes. Thank you for planting the seeds, because I feel like that's how when business gets done is when you just plant those little like, wouldn't it be cool if,
Yeah.
hey, wouldn't it be? Yeah.
and it's always the perfect storm, right? You always need all the right pieces in one place at the right time. So
Yeah.
So who's your favorite drifter?
Sorry, Benson. Nadine.
all good.
Thank
But
you.
you're a really close second. You're a really
Thank
close
you.
second.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
I
was
usually
what?
am.
Totally
I
bait.
usually am next to her.
It's baited. I was baiting him. No, really though.
You know
really,
what?
though.
You know what? So my problem becomes I started looking at character as well, but drifting is character, right?
Of course.
Mike and I both agree we really like Dart Izumida. Nobuki and I love a lot because he's just ridiculous and hokey. I love people who just like straight have fun with it. On the Hawaii side, to be honest, I loved Ross Petty, man. Ross Petty was always fun when he drifted, and I loved his attitude about it.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Why was he fun when he drifted?
You know what it is? So I liked his drifting, but I honestly, I think it's because I knew his character, and I knew like the smile he would have while he's drifting, and like how crazy, like his whole "it's boso" and all that stuff. Like I could literally feel that happening in his thought process in the car as he was drifting, and for some reason I was always enamored to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You were drawn.
So I think it's time for my deep thought of the day.
Oh.
With Jack Handy?
Yeah, with yeah. So I mean, Nadine normally does the heavy hitting questions, but I know you, Jason. After all these years, I know you're a very intellectual person. You're very introspective, and you're very deep. I feel you're very philosophical. I feel.
Aww.
And so, as I was thinking about and preparing for this interview with you, I thought, like, what can I talk to Jason about that would get that philosophical side of him, the introspective side of him. And so here it goes. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So you've traveled around the world to experience drifting for grip video and, for whatever reason. And so you've got to witness how drifting is distinctly unique in different places of the world.
Yeah.
And I feel like drifting is distinctly unique in different places of the world because culture is different. And we may all be inspired by what we see in Japan. And so we kind of mimic it in where we're at. And so that makes it different. Our, American culture is different. I should say mainland culture might be different, or even LA culture might be different from New Jersey culture, right? So drifting is going to feel different. It's going to look different. There's going to be it's going to be kind of its own little subculture of drifting, I feel like, right?
Yeah.
And so when it comes to Hawaii, I really felt like it was distinctly unique from the rest of the mainland. And
how did it make you feel?
Okay, so I mean, one obvious thing is
I'm going to ask the question.
Okay. I'm ready. I'm ready
for real.
My answer.
How did it...
No, I felt it was different. I mean, visually it was different because car style, I felt like Hawaiian car style did the best at mimicking Japanese car style.
Yeah.
The way the cars appeared, the wheels, paint, just the way the cars looked, right?
Yeah.
So that was one obvious thing. And driving was very aggressive. Like, I feel like Hachiroku driving specifically, like, you guys understood it. You were very aggressive. You knew how to make a slow car fast. But those are the things that were apparent to me. But who cares what I think? I want to know what you think.
Well, so I'd like to know as you seek for an answer and I respond with a question. I'd like to know when you bring this up, how did you feel about? So this is how you feel about Hawaii driving
Yes.
and Hachiroku drivers specifically. You guys were part of Club 4AG. How did you guys feel about that compared to Hawaii? Like,
We were
in terms of complementing and contrast, right?
So style was different. There were some really cool Hachirokus, but I felt like there were way more cool Hachirokus on the island.
Oh, shots fired.
Not shots fired, because I liked a lot of Hachirokus, but it's just there weren't as many. I felt like there were a lot of really good ones on Oahu, not as many on the mainland, right?
No, not many gangsta ones.
Okay.
Okay, on the mainland. That's what I say.
However you want to say it, but there was that, and I don't know, at the Club 4AG events, it was always like a school style event, right? So we were always teaching people, and
super structured, not as freestyle as Hawaii is.
yeah,
for sure.
you watch a video from a drift session, right?
Yeah.
And you guys are on the track like 4 or 5 cars at a time next to each other. You never saw that at a Club 4AG event, because we didn't run it that way. It was one guy on the track at a time.
Yeah, well, we'd also get in trouble.
So what I want to say about that too is, more often than not, how often were you guys going through an actual track where you guys going through actual turns? You guys are going through turns, but you guys more often than not using cones, right?
Yeah.
So more so you got to think about safety, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that having that whole raceway park every single month, everybody got used to it. So by the time you guys saw how Hawaii drifting was, it looks balls to the walls, because those guys are so used to that track. They're so comfortable. They know exactly how to push their cars. And I think that's possibly the difference.
Ooh.
Now, here's the hard thing. The hard thing becomes you get so used to that one track. So what happens when the track changes? So for you guys, in some sense, there's some advantage, right?
Yeah.
Because you constantly change it. Kind of like SCCA, Gymkhana, and stuff like that, right?
Right.
Totally.
But for our guys, and I think they've always done well. I'm very proud of our guys. I'm proud of you guys. I just love, I don't know. I just love the scene. But for our guys, the question then becomes, what happens when they're on a different track? That's the hardship of it.
Right.
They're so used to all those turns, month after month, 1 or 2 days out of the month. What happens when they have a different track?
Right.
So
Jason, you gave me a very race car driver answer for that. But I wanted to know, but hey,
which I'm not a race car driver at all. I don't know how that.
Hey, but
He wants you to go deep.
yeah, you race
You didn't go
cars.
deep.
Come on. No, so this podcast series on Hawaii is about the drifting in Hawaii, but I also want to take people behind the scenes and explain how Hawaiian culture is unique. You have a lot of Asians there. You have, native Hawaiians there, and the culture is just different. And I wanted to ask you how you think that informed how drifting grew up in Hawaii.
You know, it's interesting when you bring that up. Just it's almost like it's a response to it, but it's also kind of a side point, because it's not exactly talking about drifting. But growing up in Hawaii, thinking about the scene here with so many Asian people, Japanese, Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese, etc. Me growing up here, I did not go to the mainland until I was 24, till I joined the army. Or 20, around there, 23, 24. To me, I thought we were so multicultural, but at the end of the day, which we are to a degree, at the end of the day, everybody is local culture. We're not really Japanese aren't really necessarily Japanese culture here. It's a very local Japanese culture. I felt when I would go to LA and places like that, I go to into different communities, that people there embraced that their specific ethnic culture a lot more. They kind of held on to it. It was a sense of community in a place where maybe you didn't have as much of a melting pot as we had. But I think for us, it's more of that hodgepodge, real, like I feel it was more of a real melting pot where we thought we knew Japanese culture. We didn't know crap. You know what I mean? I go to Japan, I start using like Japanese words that I learned only to find out they're all made up local Japanese words, you know? But I do think that a lot of people here, you know, just like everyone else, are super proud of their heritage. And I think cars were just a part of that. The idea that you can make a Japanese car super fun, look great, make it fast, have a great time with it, make it look cool so you look cool. I definitely think that Japanese influence was super strong here, and people just embraced it and sucked it up. And
Yeah.
It was pretty awesome. Does that answer the question? I feel like I went off a tangent here.
I mean, it was totally obvious to me. Drifting over there started in the early 2000s on the track, right?
Yeah.
But you guys already had the Japanese style down, and
They're already drifting on Talus and other places.
Yeah,
before
but
that,
but the cars, you know, you look at the cars and you're like, is that Hawaii or is it Japan? The only way I can tell is if there's a rainbow on the license plate, right? And fast forward now, right now, I feel like people are they're getting it now. You see a lot of cars, and I'm not sure if they're from Japan or somewhere else in the world, right? But it's taken some time, I think, for people to really nerd out and catch on. Whereas the guys in Hawaii, they did it.
Well, yeah, and
early.
on the flip side, and then you see Japan copying American style.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Wow.
USDM. Yeah.
It's like full
you know,
circle.
I got out of a lot of the. I will always love cars, and I will especially always love you guys. You know what I mean? I love the fact that we still keep in touch. We still talk. We still have that connection. It's the same day. It's the same way with like RJ Divera and all those guys. It's amazing. And Ray Fong. At the end of the day, for me, that's what really kind of blessed me for this whole experience. But I kind of, after my second tour in Iraq, I kind of got out of the culture. There's a lot of things that kind of happen. So I see a lot of things in Hawaii that's going on. I wonder how the culture is in the mainland, because I haven't really kept up with it. In Hawaii, it's definitely, and I hope this is an indicator of what's happening in the mainland, but definitely there is a change with the loss of the Raceway Park, of course.
Yeah.
A lot of performance shops closed down. A lot less people are driving modified cars, I guess. You are seeing there's still a big car culture here. It is kind of going the way of that heavy camber kind of look. It definitely, you don't see as much of that old school kind of like real cool Japanese kind of looking thing. And maybe I'm just a little old fashioned, but I still love that look.
Yeah, we love it too.
Yeah, for sure.
Gangsta.
Personal preference. Like, hey man, cars are like a canvas. It's all up to you. It's your expression of art, right? So I respect anyone who goes out there and wants to make something kind of interesting and have fun with it.
For sure.
You know what I mean? It's not just a canvas in terms of how do you modify it. It's a canvas in terms of how you use it, right? Personally, I still love that old school classic look. I love something with a nice kit. Not like really nice wheels and not like just set up
neons and Lambo doors and a basketball hoop that comes out of the trunk. I get you.
I feel like you're calling me out because when I first got into cars, I wanted Lambo doors.
Oh man.
No, but I love a car that just looks just classic, but is also highly functional.
Yeah.
That's just still me. But, yeah.
I don't think that'll ever go out of style.
No, it won't.
The thing that remains consistent, though, is that Hawaii cars have style, whether it's a drift car, whether it's VIP, like whatever. The car style's always good there, man.
So coming from an island-type state, I think that in the middle of the Pacific, kind of isolated, I think that we're very proud of our culture. If we do something, we want to put some pride into it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying no one else does that, but I think sometimes people in Hawaii tend to take it a little extra mile because, we feel being so isolated from everyone else that we need to kind of show. We need to kind of show off, I think that's kind of a little bit of it,
Yep.
Well, thank you so much, Jason, for letting us kind of crash and, put you on the spot to do our intro.
Thanks for gracing our podcast with your presence.
Guys, I love you guys, man.
Love you too,
awesome
man.
to talk. I always love to talk to you guys. I love the podcast. It's great to be on. Looking forward to being on again. We can talk about crazy nights in Japan, Yakuza, and all that stuff.
I can't wait. It'll be awesome.
It's super fun. Super fun.
You got the stories.
I wish you guys the best. And we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, same to you. Happy early birthday. And Jason, I want to say thank you for your service, man.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Jason.
All right, guys.
Shoots.
Get in.
So, honey buns, who do we have next on this wonderful Hawaii tour?
Okay, so this guy I met on the mainland of US while we were doing Formula D.
Oh.
So this guy, I had to have him on because he was such a character and he had such charisma. Like his personality had so much charisma, but also on the track. I mean, he's done some cool stuff on the track that I just I didn't know where that came from. And so, I always knew that he was, one of the early guys in Hawaii to do drifting. But I didn't really know how far back that went. So, talking to guys, trying to do my homework for these episodes, everyone referred to him as the OG. So had to have him on. Steevo, Steve Oliberos, welcome to the show, man.
Right on, bro. Nice to be on the show. Mahalo.
Yeah, dude, it's been so long, and apparently you're up to no good every day still, just like in the old days. So it's good to see that you have the same energy.
Well, some things don't change, right? People often say to me, "When are you gonna act your age?" And I'm like, "I am. I've never been this age before."
Oh.
Hey, so help us understand when you got into drifting and how you found out about it, when you started, take us back to the beginning.
So, what is crazy is that I would see these kids or they would talk about it and they would be looking at these comic books and video games, and I'd be like, you guys just wasting tires. That's ridiculous. No, but that's because I came from a road course background. So I used to race SCCA.
Okay.
In a Datsun 510.
Nice.
And my 510 was infamous. And, they have a saying in road course racing, because I wouldn't just race like autocross. It was like wheel to wheel and stuff, because we had our own track, And there's a saying with road racers, sideways is slow. And, when you're scrubbing speed, that's what happens.
Yeah.
Well, lo and behold, I was going to be one of those guys going sideways soon,
I know. Who would have thought?
Hey, what did all your competitors think? Like the guys that were doing SCCA with you when you went the other direction? When you went to
when
the
I
dark
went for
side.
the other team.
Yeah.
I live in the darkness. So it was crazy because what would happen is I would be missing, races, and I was a points champion. I would miss races, and these guys, where were you? Oh, I was drifting last week, and they're like, drift this, right? Young punks, and
Those drifters.
those guys just making noise at night up the road, But I took a lot of my road course background and I put it into the drifting, because you're setting up the car basically the same way. But I had little secrets. Everybody has their own little tweaks that they do.
Yeah.
Whatever race, they're kind of doing it. And with drifting, when you using used tires that you go get from the dumpster at Goodyear, we would show up with 24 tires and roast them all because they were just partially used, and we didn't have money for tires, and it was one of those where you just got what you got. Right. And so it's hard to set up the car because the tires are always changing, your car's always changing.
Yeah.
So my road course cars, I made them to go really fast straight. And in the early days of drifting at our track, because there was just a little bit of guys, they would integrate the road course guys and the drifting guys at the same time. So sometime you'd see these Hondas blazing and we were drifting too. And if guys were going slow, they just go around them
Yeah.
or and stuff until the following came much bigger and it was like had to separate. And then it got to the point where even the road course guys were just like, no, we're gonna get a drift car too. And then it was separated at that point.
Yeah.
So it kind of transitioned really quick, But I was doing both races, and then, finally I was like, I got my off-road trucks, I got my motorcycles, I got the jet skis, the boats, and I was just like, I gotta start getting rid of stuff. And I was like, I hardly road course, and for 50 seconds of excitement as compared to all day
Yeah.
drifting,
Yeah.
it's kind of a no-brainer.
Right.
What year was this? What year were you doing this?
It was 2000, I want to say 3. About there is when we started to get real serious about it. So I never even had a drift car. Guys would come to me and they're like, I want you to, can you swap this motor for me? Can you do this? Can you do that? And, I had all these other cars. So what I would do is I would set the car up like I was setting it up for me to race,
Okay.
but then they would drive it. And then, they wouldn't do good. So they would, oh, something's wrong, this, that. And I said, for me, air pressure is everything.
Yep.
So I helped them develop the right air pressure for whatever tires they had. And then, of course, those tires are gone, and now you got to start all over with the next set of junk tires. So that was a challenge. So I would get in their car and actually see how the car would work because, we didn't have a test area. The track was a test area. And so um, I just hammer on their car, and I'm like, bro, there's nothing wrong with the car. You can drive.
It's the driver, not the car.
Yeah, I'm like, the car is awesome, bro. And they'd be like, oh, how do you do that? So, I was a driving instructor as well. So sometimes we would hold driving instruction classes for not just, drifting, but aside from that, different kind of stuff. And so I was kind of used to having people in the car and showing them what to do. And that's how we kind of advanced. So you would have these up and comers, but these kids was good but they just didn't have that edge, but they didn't know why. And then we would drive together and they would see what I did and I would see what they did, and then they would use this technique and they'd get faster and faster, and all of a sudden then they start getting to the level of they're in class A competition with us. Now, no, they don't get to ride with us anymore.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
And were you instructing for drift session?
Yeah. And what we would also do is like you guys know Earl, right? So Earl used to rent the track. And so because he was one of the OGs too, all the OGs would be like a private session. We go out there, and then so we would have, friends that could afford it to come out there, and people that would be better to be driving with instead of wrecking and crashing and damaging stuff.
Yeah.
So we'd have our own sessions that we would rent the track out to and pay the money for the track. And so we would teach the ones that we wanted to. And then we would actually hold some classes, informally, but it was a legit like instruction for these other young ones to come in. And what we had is like, I mean, you guys know what I mean when you have kind of a following, right? So you get all these young kids, and they're like, oh, Steve, he does this, he does that, and they'd come over, to my shop and hang out. Those ones, they just hang out.
Yeah.
They want to help. They want to be surrounded by
They
it.
want to be part of it.
Yeah, totally. And they would drop little hints what they wanted to do to their car, and I know what it's like to have no money and have to scrape and do stuff. So we make them guys work, help us with this, help us with that, clean up, do whatever. And then at the end of the day, it's like, hey, open your hood, and they're just like stoked. And we'll,
like, yeah.
put in a new blow off valve, or we'd
Yeah.
fix wiring system, or I'd be like, dude, your alignment is so off. That's why you're spinning. And little things like that. And
Small
so
things.
we kind of have all these little groupies that would hang out with us at the track. But for us, it's never was about I'm better than you, or you go, what, you are a junior, worthy of hanging out with us.
Mhm.
It was,
Yeah.
that kind of
You didn't go
punky,
Hollywood on
punky,
them. Mhm.
punky kind of howly attitude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody, if they needed help, when we go to the track, I had a huge tent set up, and we'd bring the compressor and the truck and a trailer tire changer. You
Nice.
guys, and don't charge them for change tires. And we'd bring extra tires. They needed, you know what? Just go take those tires.
Yeah.
Next week, you better be at the shop helping.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
That's awesome.
You know,
nice.
and somebody would break stuff. Even like when we organized sessions where the Japanese would come over, they break stuff. We'd have parts share with them, and that worked out for the better for me because the favor was returned, by the Japanese drivers when I needed help at
Yeah.
other times. So yeah, it was good fun, man.
Speaking of the Japanese drivers that came over, can you tell us what that experience was like? Like, do you remember? You remember who came over and like tell us about each time that a Japanese guy came over. What it was like for you to be there with them, and like, did it change things for you guys when that happened?
It was a game changer, bro. Let me tell you, when Kosuke Kira-san
Yeah.
from
Signal
Signal
Auto.
Auto came over. So we're in the office and everybody's like, oh, professional driver, first time Japanese professional drifters come to America. Yes, because the 50th state is
That's right.
America. Um, although you may hear a different, you know, edition of that, they came to Hawaii
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Let them know the
When
truth,
when
man.
Kosuke came, his driver X,
Yeah.
came over and he would do the straightaway because our racetrack was integrated. The drag strip was
Mhm.
integrated into the road course because that's how it's situated.
Hmm.
And he would do a clutch kick in like fourth gear and just be sliding for a couple hundred yards into the hairpin, and all of us would be like, "Nanda yo!" blowing our minds. We're like, "Wait, what just happened here?
Yeah.
That was just mental." Because everybody would be like doing chokodoris and bep second gear, and he'd be like wide open.
Yep.
It was insane. And so, uh, uh, you know, whenever you do something to the level and you get to this plateau, you're not going to get to that plateau unless you're pushed or you push it. So like,
Hmm.
I'm a person that I learn by doing and seeing and watching.
Yeah.
I don't need a classroom or a book. In fact, that's harder for me.
Hmm.
So when I see something, I see it once it's done. I figure out ways to do it, better or better myself
Yeah.
at doing it.
Yeah.
And so that's what it took. And other people, one of the limitations was our cars because we didn't have back then. It was hard to get parts and the parts were still expensive. Now you can
Right.
go on eBay and buy a manifold for $70 when it
Right.
was like 800 back then.
Yeah.
So that made it hard. So the ones that had money or are spoiled, who had parents who had money, would have better cars, but still the driver factor was
Yes.
was was an element. And I was sure that I could beat the expensive cars just by driving skill with my mediocre car.
Yeah.
So I'd push the limit with a car and know that I got the foundation to get it done. But I didn't get to that spot until the Japanese came over, and Kosuke is a really awesome guy. And I'm just gonna fast forward a little bit. So when I was doing exhibition stuff at like the Nopi Nationals,
Hmm.
he was there, and him and his crew, and I'd go see him in a BFG, booth, and he'd be like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "We're over here," and he's like, "No, because we met years before,
Yeah.
and now we're doing stuff professionally and doing all this exhibition." So he'd come over and watch me drive, and we have a good time. And so that was really awesome. It started a relationship that expands for years.
Hmm.
I love it. And when we're talking about Japan, who was your favorite driver back then, or of the guys? Because you guys got so many Japanese drivers that came
You
to
guys
you.
are really
Yeah.
spoiled.
What's up?
Yeah.
So, out of all of the millions that came, not millions, but all the ones that came,
Yeah.
who's your favorite, or maybe a hero for you?
So I I have never been the kind of person that idolize other people or sports figures. Oh, oh, you seen that play they did or this. I've, I don't want to say that, again, I just, I don't want to sound like conceited or whatever, but I don't try to emulate other people, but
Mhm.
I admire their skill set and what they've accomplished and what they bring to the table, you
Yeah.
know, but I'm not the kind of guy that's going to go and wear
Yeah.
a shirt with their face on it or
Yeah.
I don't. It's like idolizing someone. I just that to me that's kind of it's kind of childish, in a way. But when you're young, that's the kind of stuff you do. But at the time, I was like way older than these guys, and I just want to be better and I want to
Mhm.
learn. The problem, I've been out of the game for so long, and I've had so much other stuff happen in between. Then, not to mention the little bit the head trauma, and I have um, hard time remembering certain names and
Yeah.
certain specifics about certain events. So when you ask me stuff, I'm kind of like, like I can't remember at all, even if I tried. So even if we pause and I try to remember, so some of the names is very when this non-existent in my memory right now because it's
Yeah.
like I said, I've been out of the game. I haven't been living that life for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
So the ones that I remember, Ueo went there.
Yeah,
The Signal Twins went there.
yeah,
Kumakubo, did he come?
Kumakubo
Yeah.
and
yeah. He is a really nice guy too.
He
yeah,
is so
super
nice.
nice.
Super
Who's
nice
the guy
guy.
with the Hachiroku Turbo Hachiroku?
Oh, Maeda Ken.
Maeda. That guy is so good fun to hang out with him because he's so humble and he's so funny and good
Yeah.
fun. And how we got associated was he was, he had a K26 turbo in his. I had a K26 turbo in um my Sylvia, but I was running a CA18. I got a
Oh wow. Black
six
sheep.
setup CA18. No one had it, and I didn't want to
Yeah.
be like everybody else.
Yeah.
But CA18s don't have rocker arms that break. You
Right.
can scream them, but you gotta make a lot of power. So anyway, we were at he came to Hawaii, and then he was looking at my motor, and he was like, I have that, in Japanese, he was saying he has the same turbo.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, yeah, but it has no bottom end. And he was like, I put nitrous in. I'm like, look, and I have nitrous in mine. So
Yeah.
he and I has the same setup.
Oh,
Yeah.
you guys were
And so
bonding.
when we went, when I was in at Formula at not Formula D at
D1.
No feet.
D1, he
Uh-huh.
was there, and I would travel with grip video all the time, so we're always backstage. And you know us, we'd always, because we're the OGs, we got to go backstage
Yeah.
all the time, right?
Always. Yeah.
We had the hookups, right? So I go and I go meet with him, and he's like, "Hey, how's it going?" And then I said, "Open your hood, open your hood." So he goes and I'm like, K26. He's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. In Japanese, I'm like, you copying me. He's
Yeah.
like, no, you copying me. It's funny. So it was funny. And he's one of those guys that was really good to talk with. And Kumakubo, them, they just out there. The thing was they was just screwing around having fun,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and they were just absolute hammers, and guys were like, how do you guys do that stuff that you do?
Mm-hmm.
And for us, it was just like, we know how they do that. You just
Yeah.
gotta commit.
Yeah. I wanted to talk to you about the culture in Hawaii because
Yeah.
you're one of the few that you were doing a lot of drifting in Hawaii. You grew up in Hawaii, and then you got to experience the mainland,
hmm
right? And you got to experience drifting in Hawaii, drifting on the mainland. What were some of the differences that you noticed between the two, like culturally wise?
Well, our culture, everything is, how should I say, plenty aloha.
Mm,
It's not so much competition. It's more
yeah,
of real ohana, real family. So if this guy crashes, we're all over there helping him because we want to see him race.
yeah,
I'd go to the track with my tow truck. There's a big flatbed, and then it had the lift on the back. Somebody would crash, I would get out of my car, take it, and go get their car and bring it back to the pit so they could work on it. I'd have control arms and stuff. I'm like, dude, you guys grab the stuff, the tools are. I'm going back on the track.
mm-hmm,
And there was a time that we were in competition, and me and Barry, um, got together, and he was counter steered, and it bent his tie rod, and it kind of hurt his rack and pinion. So he ended up having to abort the points championship race because we touched.
Mm-hmm.
So I let him drive my car because
Wow.
it was points. You know, it was
Yeah.
we were in a contention. Three of us were in contention for points. Me, Shige, and Barry. And you know, me and Barry were racing on the main line, and Ross, and so we were every chance we got to get back to drift session, we're trying to beat each other with points because we
Yeah.
were like, you know, somebody who's coming going to get the advantage,
Yeah.
and we were on neck and neck. And so I let him drive my car in the competition, but he's a different type of tune in his car, and
Yeah.
he had a different driving style, so
Yeah.
he stalled my car and bobbled, and he didn't advance. But I let him take my car, and you know, when the drift session was announcing that and narrating the videos that went out, they actually said how gracious it was for me to loan him my car and
Mm.
that you would never see that anywhere else.
Yeah.
And when the Japanese guys came, they would say, and you see it, you watch Japanese videos, these guys flip over, smash, they all look and they're like, oh, sucks to be him. All of us go
Yeah.
out there and we go and
Yeah.
help. I actually rescued a guy's car from burning to the ground. I risked my life. I
Yeah.
jumped into a burning car to save the guy's car, risk my life so that his car wouldn't burn to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I used to fight fire, so I'm kind of a little bit fearless that way. And my brothers are right there to help too. Whereas other people would have just like let the thing burn. No one
Yeah.
stepped up to the plate. I jumped head first through the window
Yeah.
in a burning car
You're crazy.
because
Oh my
I knew
gosh.
that was, and the bushes was on fire.
Yeah.
And you know, as I'm doing this, my brother is hooking a tow strap just to the rim, just to pull it, because there's no ways to pull it, and pulled it out of the bushes
Yeah.
before it got on fire. And you know, fire department came, but I had the fire in the car control. They had to put the bushes out.
Yeah.
Whereas you go to the mainland and somebody crashes or breaks, and they're like, yes, the
Mm.
eliminating of the competition.
Yeah.
It's not just like that in racing. It's like that everywhere in the continental United States. No matter aloha spirit, yeah, people
Yeah.
are all out for themselves.
Yeah.
And it's not totally correct, but you know what I'm saying. Is
Yeah.
generally speaking, culturally, we're going to help each other because we want to see each other succeed and advance. I don't want to win by default. I
Right.
want, you know, if you go and you take my car and crash it, we both going to be out. But you know what? Who you think gonna get more respect? The
Right.
guy that went help or the guy that just said, haha,
Yeah.
good for you,
Yeah.
you know? And that's what it's about, you know? I mean,
So
that's
I
just
actually have another story to piggyback on top of what you're saying.
mm,
I was talking to Dave Shimokawa,
mm,
and he was telling me, you know, one of like towards the end, right before HRP closed, Drift Tengoku came to the track, and
hmm
they wrote articles, or they came to write an article, take photos and stuff. Were you there?
yeah.
So Dave was,
I actually been in, you know, the Japanese magazines too, you know?
yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise
Of
me.
course you have.
It was kind of cool to see myself in there, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So he was telling me about there was a crash at that event, and someone flipped their car,
Mm.
Mm,
and the car flipped, and the event stopped, and everybody, the drivers, the people spectating, I don't know if there were judges, but you know, everyone rushed over to the car to help the driver out.
Mm.
And
yeah.
Dave told me that the Drift Tengoku guys were talking to him about it afterwards, and they were blown away by it
Yeah.
because they're saying, just like you were saying in Japan, when someone flips a car, you know, they laugh, or you know, like it's just another thing that happens, right? But
Yeah.
over in Hawaii, they're like, we can tell that it's different here. The way you guys care for each other is unlike anything we've seen.
I have to backpedal. I wasn't at that event, but uh that was my brother that flipped.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what happened? What do you remember about that?
So, Hawaii Raceway Park is kind of a old bus up track, and they don't really care for it too much. So the
Mm-hmm.
tire barrier that's in the sweeper, the tires aren't like, you know, they stack
Yeah.
They were just thrown, so they're more like a ramp.
Yeah.
And my brother had just swapped out tires because it's like at the end of the day, and he's like, I just gonna finish some up. And so the tires were cold, they were junk, and they were crappy tires. They weren't the good stuff. And he was driving his threshold where he drives, and the car just went too wide and caught the back end. And when your counter steered, you catch the back end, and the front whips.
Yep.
Guess where you're going. He just went straight up that ramp, and it just flipped him over, and he landed on the roof.
Oh my gosh.
But he landed on his side, not the passenger side. So it kind of crushed his spine a little bit. So he till today he gets back pain from it. He didn't get severely hurt. But his good friend was in the passenger seat, and he's real tall, and it went like this where he was, so he didn't get smashed. But I had literally just painted the car before I left for Formula D. So his car had every single perfect body panel, brand spanking new motor. And the next week when I came back, we were gonna build a cage for it.
Oh geez, next week.
And there was not one body panel on that car that wasn't scratched.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he kicked the windshield out and drove it home.
Is that
Put
Hawaii
glasses
style
on
too?
and drove it home. We didn't have a tow truck at that time, so he
Yeah.
drove it home,
Well, I'm glad your brother is okay. And
Yeah, he's doing
water
fine.
under the bridge. Now it's
Yeah.
just kind of a crazy story. So
Yeah, it was, we all had our fair shares of crashing. If you don't crash, you're not pushing it.
Yeah,
So if you're not
yeah.
pushing it, you're basically sitting on the porch with the little dogs.
So okay, Stevo. So I heard about a story, and I was supposed to ask you about this. Can you tell us about some activities that you may or may not have done in the pineapple fields?
So it's actually not that exciting actually, but there was right in behind the Haleiwa town, there was a gate, and the gates are still lock the access to the upper fields so people wouldn't trespass. And people used to call it Steevo's spot, but it went into the pineapple fields in the cane field, pineapple field area. So where my shop was, you just drive right past, and we go down this side road behind the city, and it goes under the overpass, because the overpass goes right over this road, and it was a big, fat, long Y. And so whenever we get done testing cars or building them, we want to go test, make sure, the boost level's right, no pipes not blowing off, suspension settings. We go up there, and, the cops would show up. So somebody's like at the restaurant, they hear rubber and burning rubber. They think, somebody crashing. And that's how everybody always thinks. So cops would come, and all of a sudden they'd show up, and we're like, hey, we had a tow yard, and the cops were always there because at the front of our property was the gas station, and next to it was 7-Eleven. So we knew all the cops, and the cops, we tow cars because, they get into accidents. And so they knew who we were. So they'd show up, and they'd be like, oh, that's you. And I'm like, what you mean? They're like, that's you. And I said, I just sitting here. You just pulled up. I was just sitting here. They're like, yeah, right. And I'm like, no, we're just kidding. then you hear over the radio, and they're like, oh yeah, we're here with them now. Like, oh, we do it. And you hear, oh, do you need backups? No, we got the situation handled. And then they would be like, are you guys done yet? And we're like, yeah, I guess so. We're just gonna be here a few minutes. He goes, few minutes. I said, no, few minutes. I said, okay. So, my other buddy would come because I worked on his Volkswagen before. I said, hey, when do you guys switch shifts? And he would be like, oh, between this time and that time. I go, so you guys would be not in this area. I said, okay. So we would plan during their shift switches, it was like a 2-hour window. Okay, we got to test and tune today. We go out there, and we'd close the gate so people wouldn't just drive up,
Right.
And then we'd get away with it because by the time, we're not sitting there for 2 hours. We just do a few samples and drive back. And then sometimes the cops would show up, and they were like, where are you drifting over there? I said, I was just test driving the car, making sure the boost controller was right. My friend's like, next time, call me. I want to watch. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna be out there this afternoon. He said, what time? I said, before your shift change. He starts laughing. I said, okay. So I call him up. I'm like, hey, we're gonna go test the car, and which is great because he'd show up and you know we wouldn't have any issues. We never got in trouble because it's on private land, and anybody calling was just calling because of a noise complaint, and we were in the bushes, with nice asphalt, so we could have a really good test session. And he was sitting in the middle of the Y, which made it interesting because instead of trying to cut the corner, we're cutting his car now, just off the bumper on his car. And it's so funny because I tell the young boys, like, what, the cops are coming. And I'm like, you guys, no one video. You understand me?
Yeah.
I don't want none of this video on the internet and we're going to get in trouble and get him in trouble. Is that understood? Everybody's, oh, okay, no videos. I said, you guys get videos, I'll punch your face. No videos, for real. And so he'd come out there. And it's so funny because he's never seen us do it. And I let him have it one day. And it's funny because he goes and he's act like he's drawing his weapon at me and pointing at me as I
Oh
go
my
by,
god. Oh
and
my
I'm trying to like clip his hand with the front bumper because he's pointing and he's like, you this, you F that, you're nuts, and blah, 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 cracking up laughing. And he was like, but man, that is awesome. How do you do that? I'm like, jump in. And he's like, I better not because I'm in uniform, But yeah, everybody call it Steevo spot. And I'm like, what do you guys talking Steevo spot? These guys would come do their midnight runs and come bomb my spot in the middle of the night. And that once guys come in and start bombing your spot, then the cops get involved and then
Yeah.
then it's trouble. So I talk to the young boys because we do this drifting down at Barber's Point on some hidden spots, and I go down there. Hey, you guys going Haliva? Yeah, stay away from my spot. The cops telling me, and they're like, oh, okay. I said, just stay up the road. I said, oh, okay, okay. So I could still use my spot.
Nice.
That was a secret underground spot that everybody could watch from the overpass. That
Yeah.
was funny.
Yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
One time they called the fire department because we were roasting it so bad that the smoke was there wasn't a lot of wind that day, and we were just doing some mental drifting and it was real smoky because I was using the Falcons, and they called the fire department and they show up and we're just sitting there acting like nothing's happening, like because we heard the sirens. We were like, well, let's just act like we're not doing anything, and then they come up and do you guys see something burning? We're like, my tires? No, not at all. They're like, huh? No, we just got here. The car was overheating, so we figured we stop out of the way. It was fun. It was fun.
Awesome.
It's a good story.
All right, that was good.
This is great.
Yeah.
That's
I
a good
love
interview.
it. Thank you
So,
so much.
We're getting close to the end. I wanted to ask you, Stevo, is there any stories that you want to share that you haven't talked about yet?
There's I don't know, but
I'm sure there's a lot.
You start sharing stories and you sound like you're just talking about yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't like talking about
That's
myself
okay.
too much.
That's okay.
As much fun as I had, and as much experience as I gained, and as much friends, like genuine friends that I gained, I don't look back with any regrets because there's a thing about making good acquaintances that are genuine.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna find peel out people wherever you look. You don't gotta look far, but to find real friends, that's a pretty hard thing to do. And drifting brought a lot of us together till
Yeah.
today. Till today, we still stay in touch with the people that we stayed in touch with back
Yeah.
then. Ernie,
Yeah.
my homie Ernie. Okay,
Yes.
he comes to Hawaii,
Yeah.
and I gotta really, if I can relate this awesome story I have just recently. So I'm over on the Big Island, and I was going hunting, and he calls me up randomly out of the blue. I'm in Hawaii. I'm working on this jet over here that has some damage, blah blah blah. And I'm like, where are you? He's like, I'm in Kona. I'm like, bro, I'm on the Big Island. He's like, what? I'm like, no way. So I jump in my truck and I blitz it over there to go see him. And we're like, bro, because the last time him and his wife came, I was living on Oahu and I took him diving, and his mom came and
Yeah.
I took his mom way in the deep and we caught some fish and it was just great, and we got all this awesome, video and stuff and whatnot. And so we haven't seen each other for a while, and I know him and his wife went through some she went through some health issues
Hmm.
and stuff. So it's like we always stay in touch. And so um, I met him, and we went out and had some lunch. And then when we go to leave, go to the water, my truck dies.
Oh,
It's something is wrong with it, and I pretty much at the end of it all, I was like, no, you guys go to the beach. I'm just gonna go deal with this. You guys shouldn't be doing this. But I'll tell you how much of a good brother um, Ernie is. He stuck with me until the tow truck came, which
Oh.
he used his AAA
nice.
to, and that's the first time I've used a tow truck in 10 years to tow it back to my friend's house. And
Yeah.
I pretty much left the truck at my friend's. I'll go fix it later,
Yeah.
And then that
Oh.
was what we got. We got to like, you know, although we didn't get to jump in the water and go have fun, we got to hang out and
Yeah.
try and fix a truck together
Yeah.
like old times.
Just
Yeah,
like old
yeah, yeah.
times.
Just like old times.
Some things never change,
Yeah, yeah.
It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
we're still doing that stuff,
Yeah,
So it's kind of funny.
without drifting, I wouldn't have met all of you guys over in Hawaii.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
there's just no other way. I can't think of any other way I would have met all you guys.
No.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you so much,
Yeah.
Stevo. I'm so glad to connect back again with you. It's been
Yeah.
how long has it been?
I don't know.
Ooh, let's think.
let's not
Let's
count.
think about how it's
Let's not
been.
do the math.
Oh, come on.
It's
It's
been,
been
Well, Formula D
Let's
was
see.
2004, so that's 18 years.
18
so the
years.
last time I saw you guys was probably the last year I did Formula D. It's 2006, 2007
Yeah, you
maybe.
stuck with it for a while.
Yeah, it was yeah, around there or so. But from the grassroots time, I
Mhm.
remember you organizing the girls
Yeah.
stuff going together.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what was that?
We're
What is
still
that?
drifting pretty. We're still together. So
Nice,
yeah,
nice.
it's been
What is that? What is that one Wahini that you guys friends? She came over here with her
Reiko. Yeah.
Reiko.
Yes.
She's
so
so good
fun.
fun. She's so
Yes.
cool. Her and her husband they just solid. There's good fun.
I
Whenever they
can't
come, we all
believe-
hang out
I
together.
can't believe we got her car over to, HRP.
Yeah.
That was awesome. I was
Yeah,
so
it was so much fun. I was so
Yeah.
stoked to see them.
Steve, I want to close out this interview by asking a question that I'm going to ask all of my Hawaii guests.
Uh-oh.
No, it's not a uh-oh. It's a good one. For all of the listeners that are out there that are listening about Hawaii drifting for the first time, what do you want them to know about drifting in Hawaii?
I think that we need to set the record straight about something. And as the 50th state, the grassroots of drifting in America started here in Hawaii. The first professional Japanese drifters to come to America was in Hawaii. They even brought their cars, multiple times
Yeah.
to Hawaii. So
Got that right. Mhm.
I want to just make sure that people know that.
Yeah.
But I don't want it to be something where it's like people think, what, so you think you better than us? Because that's not the point at
No.
all. Because that was
No one's going to think that you're saying that because all of you guys from Hawaii that I know, you're all humble, and you a lot of this history has been forgotten, and you guys have been okay with that. You just you keep doing what you're doing, and you're not out there telling everyone they're wrong,
Yeah.
So that's why we're doing this podcast.
That's awesome. And I commend you guys for doing that too, because it's kind of nice to connect with a little bit of these memories that I have now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it kind of makes me feel old.
Same. We've been feeling old, so I know
when
how you feel.
when your kids are done college, it makes me feel old.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, I know about that one. So all good. But you know what? You look good, and we look the same, and it's like we never, it's been a minute. That's all.
Yeah.
Just a few minutes.
2
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right, Stevo. Hey, thanks for taking the time out. I know you were under your car when I called you, and you rushed over. You skipped lunch, all of that stuff, and you're borrowing your friend's laptop and all that. So,
Oh my
hey,
gosh.
thank you for taking the time out and doing this with us.
Oh, bro, automatic. I was really look forward to it because not only, connecting with you guys, but just being able to talk about it kind of There's never a dull moment when I talk about drifting. I always
Yep.
get chicken skin, and I always
Mm-hmm.
miss it. I miss it till today. If we could still do it, you can be, I got a lot more money now. I'd be doing it all the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's what you say, but I know you got things to do, just like
I would
us.
I would change those things real fast. Those things I have to replace what I
Got
gotta
it.
compensate.
Very good. All right, man. So hey, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and hope to talk to you soon.
Guarantee.
Yeah.
Mahalo, you guys.
All
Thank
Love
you,
right.
seeing you guys
Stevo.
again.
So
Yep.
good to see you.
Aloha.
Aloha.
This 2-episode-long Hawaii episode series is sponsored by Information. Information was founded in 2002 as a surf skate apparel brand in Hawaii. If you're not familiar, they're best known in our community for the hats and tees with the HI in cursive on it. Big thank you to Information for working with us on these episodes. It's always been a dream of us to be able to work with you. We've been a long-time supporter of your brand, and we're just super excited to rock your merch here on the podcast. A few days after we release this episode, we'll be giving away Information apparel on our infamous IG giveaway. So look for that on our IG. You can scope out Information's apparel by visiting their site at information.co. That's IN4. That's the number 4, Mation, MATION.co. And you can find them on Instagram at IN, the number 4, Mation, MATION, and underscore. That's at information underscore. Now let's get back to the grilling. All right, honey buns, I'm excited to see who's our next guest. So tell me who our next guest is, why they're on the show, and what you love, love, love about them.
Okay. Well, this guy is one of the earliest to do it. He had a really, really nice Corolla. It was a silver coupe, slammed, always looked good. He always had some really nice 15s on him, all the way around, always like great condition looking wheels, and he had really good driving style. And some of our guests have even credited him for teaching them how to drift.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So what my favorite, or what I love, love, love about him, I don't know. He's kind of like a whole package for me. His car looked good. His driving was good. He had a good personality, and from what I could tell on the videos and stuff. So
Is he a 10?
yeah, he's a 10.
He's a 10. Oh, boy. Okay.
So with that, I want to welcome Stanford Lau to the podcast. What's up, Stanford?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey,
What's going
Stanford.
on? So, hey, where are you right now? You're not in Oahu.
No, I'm in Japan now. I live in Yokosuka. I just moved from Nagasaki to this area, like Kanagawa area.
Okay.
'Cause, I wanted to be closer to my brother, and they live in another part, like close by.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just moved over here.
Very cool.
to,
Wow, you
Just
fancy.
be with my brother.
Nice.
Wow. I want to have a sibling in Tokyo and Japan.
Yeah. It's been a long time.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I
So
think the last time I saw you guys was,
you came out for
Bro.
like a Formula D event, I think, right?
I don't even know if it was a Formula D back that time. I just remember we went over there in Vegas, and then we got to meet like all the famous people, like you
Oh.
guys, and like all the famous drifters. Like I think
Sema?
Dai. I remember meeting Dai Yoshihara at that
Mhm.
time. He was super nice, and I think Fife was like taking us around, kind of showing us
Got
like,
it.
Oh,
all
nice.
the dudes, right? And I remember we were leaving the track, and I think you two guys were on the side of the road, maybe fixing something. And we came by, and we're like, "Hey, do you need help or something?" And I was like, "Oh, that's Benson." I was like, "Holy cow, that's still
don't
80
know.
Mania."
Yeah.
Yeah,
We had
yeah.
some crazy experiences trailering cars to Vegas, so it's probably
Oh,
what
I see,
that
I
was.
Yeah, I got a bad memory, man. But then I remember seeing you, and then you're like, "What's up?" And kind of like we almost kind of knew each other, but we
Yeah.
didn't know each other.
I definitely knew who you were for sure.
Yeah, I was like thinking, man, he's super cool. He kind of knows me, and I obviously know you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, back then, only had like Still 80 Mania, Club 4AG, and like Slide Squad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like we didn't have many things.
There wasn't.
On the computer, I was really like waiting for your updates. Oh, this is like all the JDM stuff in Cali.
Hey, but were you on our website when it was on GeoCities?
Probably. I mean, there was not much back then.
There
So
was
any
nothing,
tidbit I could get about like JDM life.
Same here, man. And you guys had it so early on. You know, I was following you guys religiously.
Oh. Yeah.
Stalking.
I don't know.
He was stalking, man crushing.
I was
like,
stalking.
That's what I'm learning. I'm kind of like sensing this vibe right now. Okay.
So let's go all the way back to the early 90s, right? So, because Justin Kikawa said that you were the best drifter that he knew of when he first got into drifting. And this was before Drift Session. This is back when you guys were, you know, the only way to do it was on the street, right? So can you tell us how did you find out about drifting?
Well, bro, it's like, you know, when you're 15, 16 years old, you know, we get our license, right? Like us Americans get our license. So at that point in time, I'm already like thinking about what the hell kind of car I gotta get, right? I'm in high school, I want a car. And then, you know, back in I was sophomore, so it was like 91, right? Just trying to figure out the car. And back then, you know, it wasn't like Honda or Nissan. It was more like Scirocco's and you know, just like all kinds of stuff, right? So basically, I was in the process of trying to choose the car, which was going to be a Scirocco or a Accord hatchback. You know, the kind of the sharper looking one.
Yeah.
And you know, you want sounds and you want to drop it and
Ooh.
But then my friend, this guy, he was a new kid in school, but he's older than me, 1 year older than me. My friend Jin, and he actually came from Roosevelt, where Joss, Lance Subota, and Brandon Hiroshige, they're from that side, right? So he knew them, and he he convinced me to go get a Corolla GTS, and then I was like, oh, okay, Corolla GTS.
He was deciding your fate.
I was thinking. You know, I didn't know about cars. So I was like thinking, oh yeah, that got to be that, you know, the 89 one, right? It's sharp. It's like cool looking. And then when he showed it to me on the side of the road, I was like, what? I was like, that car?
You're like, oh, that old thing?
Yeah, I was like, that's kind of old. But then he's like, no, it's good. It's awesome, you know. And I'm sure he was getting it from the Roosevelt side, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the guys with the Toyotas and all souped up cars. So yeah, obviously they knew more about, you know, cars and what's cool and stuff like that. And I was like, okay. And I was like, but I remember one time, like it wasn't, the one he showed me wasn't souped up, right? So basically, I think we went out one night and we were like at Taco Bell, and like these 3 GTSs rolled on by with like cage and everything. And I was like, oh, those are bad, man. Yeah, and they're like, I think those guys were like the OG dudes, like OG guys from Okinawa. So they had all the cool parts. You know? They could just,
interesting.
Yeah, so those OG dudes kind of influenced me, and of course with Jin and all the Roosevelt guys too. That's the cool car. So I was like, yeah, I want that car. And then, you know, obviously, Jin and them, they kind of showed me J-Wave, and then we'd go and grab the option videos.
So J-Wave's your video store there.
Yeah, well, it was like a video store for like just Japanese stuff.
Oh, okay.
So he would show me like the car, and I was like, wow, it's like sliding everywhere. It's so cool. And it sounds nuts, because they all had like Mikunis and stuff like that. So I was like, yeah, okay, that's the car I want to get. So I got that car. I mean, I wanted it, but I never had money to get it. So basically, I bought it in 94 after I graduated high school. So I guess, I bought it. I wanted to drift, because I saw those videos that they kept on showing me. But I didn't know how the hell they were sliding around, right?
Yeah.
We're just, how do you do it? Oh, you just press the gas. Okay. So the first time I tried to drift that thing in 94, I was like, from a dead stop. And I wanted to take a left turn by my house.
Yeah.
So the car just, I was like, oh yeah, it's sliding, cool. And then, back then I didn't know how to drift, obviously, right? So how do you say it? The kickback?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're like holding it too long and then it just
goes the
snaps
other
back.
way. Yeah.
Yeah, it snapped back. And I was like, oh, what is this? And then I went like careening into a neighbor's house.
Oh.
And I knocked out their wall.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they knew you too, I'm sure, because you're like right by your house.
Actually, that was my friend's grandpa's house. We used to
damn.
skateboard a lot, so
Oh,
I used to always
busted.
go over there and get my friend would bring out like these Aloha made or like juice, like passion orange.
Mhm.
Yes.
So I knew the house and I broke it
Busted.
with my first GTS.
Yeah.
That was like low miles and everything, and I
Ah.
was just like, oh man, it was pretty screwed up. It was like a little bit of the rocker got beat,
Mhm.
and obviously the door was kind of smashed in.
Yeah.
But not really frame damage, I guess. It's just like the rocker got kinked, and but as a kid, I thought that was like the end of my life. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was just
man.
like, oh
For
my
sure.
god, it's ruined. The
Yeah.
car
Yeah.
is ruined.
Worst thing that ever happened to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, the worst thing. So I ended up just wanting to sell it. I didn't like the look of it. It was crushed. I mean, for me, it was crushed.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I immediately sold it. And at that time, everybody wanted a GTS for some reason, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, people probably were talking about it or something. And then I sold it to this one kid came up to look at it. And then that's the first time I met Fife because he took the kid
Oh.
and Pfeiffer came to check out the car
Mhm.
for the younger kid.
Yeah.
And then he already knew how I smashed the car.
He knew what you did.
He could understand like
Oh.
oh, you did this and then it went like that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, that's what I did. So like I guess that was like the first time I ever met somebody that actually knew how to drift, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and that was when I met Fife that one time.
So you met Alex, who was the first guy that you ever met that also knew how to drift.
He
Not
I
also.
didn't
also,
see
but-
him drift before.
Yeah.
I didn't see him, but I heard about him and
Okay.
I met him, and just from talking to him, I would figure. I mean, I didn't know anything about
Right.
drifting, so I was just like, oh.
Did he end up helping you learn?
No, I think after that time I hit the car, I kind of was afraid of getting any rear wheel drive car.
Yeah.
And so I think for a longest time I didn't get another GTS. Like
So you were kind of traumatized.
I was traumatized. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I got like an 80 SR5. The hatchback, the
Mhm.
80 SR5 hatchback, and it had like a 2TG in that thing and like 40s. But yeah, I didn't want to drift, and I tried drifting that one, but yeah, I didn't know what I was doing. So.
Yeah.
In any case, yeah, for the longest time I didn't drift until probably one night I was at, I was still hanging around with Jin, and he knows Brandon and all Justin and all of them, right?
Yeah.
So in this place called Manoa Valley, we would visit, because us young kids, we got no money, we don't do nothing but hang out at people's places and talk story, right?
Yeah.
Hang out in front of 7-Eleven, hang out at the gas station.
Yeah.
So just like talking, what we gonna do? I don't know. What we gonna do? I don't know. We gonna play video games, right? Or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So one night we were at 70, I think it was 76, right? So like Bran and Joss worked on one side of the gas station, which is, I think that was 76. And across the street was Shell, where Lance Subota, he worked on. So they were like opposite of each other, right? And then, I remember it was nighttime, they're closing up, and then I remember Brandon Hiroshige. He had a really awesome looking GTS, and then he freaking like, he was leaving, and he just like, man, like what I thought was drifting. Yeah, he was just like, right out of the gas station, like super sideways, and just you can hear the duels and everything. I was like, oh, that's the baddest thing I ever seen in real life, right?
Yeah.
Because I've never seen drifting in real life.
Yeah.
But then when I saw that, I was like, holy shit, I want a freaking GTS again.
Yeah.
So yeah, I ended up giving away the SR5 because it was like broken, and back then you couldn't get like a simple timing chain, right?
Yeah.
It would take like years to get it from Japan. So I got rid of that, and then I got a GTS again.
Okay. And is that the coupe that we all know?
No, actually, so
How many did you go through?
No, well, after that one, my friend Pedro Domian, he put me in touch with another guy that had a more kind of like a cleaner coupe, right?
Straighter.
And with Pedro, I went to buy the one that I actually have now. Yeah.
So
then-
now. So do you still have it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Still got it. Well, not in Japan, but in Hawaii, yeah, I still
Okay.
got it.
Nice.
Yeah, I would never give it up.
That's what I
Unless
say
it's for
about-
unless it's for like children, like
Oh,
my
that's
children.
nice.
Yeah,
Don't give it up for
that's it.
children.
No, I mean like I didn't give it to pass it to the next
pass it to
generation.
them.
Oh,
No,
okay.
don't do that either. No.
You're like, what did you do? You freaking crashed this car.
Yeah, exactly. No, we're not going to do that.
Yeah. But then, so I got the one I currently have.
Okay. So tell it. Okay.
then-
So in 2000 or in 94, you started your first drift and it went bad, right? And it traumatized
Right.
you.
My first like attempt to
Yeah. So around when did you start picking it back up again?
Oh, so when I finally got that last GTS, I think it was like 1990, 98 or 99, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I got it. I was still in college, and then still didn't have money. So when I bought it, I couldn't even keep it. I just let my cousin use it because I had no money to keep it. And he had the car for like a year, and then when I finally got out of college and then got like a job, then I could start, I want to soup it up and make it look cool.
Get all the things.
Yeah, I want to drop it. So, at my cousin's house, he was a mechanic, right? My cousin Scott. We go over to his house, like all of us guys, right, with our cars, and we start cutting the springs, right? And
Yes.
any kind of cheap modification we can do, like drilling holes in the air box and stuff like that.
My kind of mods. I'm so down.
So we'd go over there, and as I got money, I would try to get rims, try to soup it up. But I didn't know anything about offsets or anything like that. But in that process of getting my car, having a job, starting to buy rims and stuff like that for it, I met people, right? I met my friend Tony, and he bought rims from me. And once I met him, he introduced me to Ed Kubo, which introduced me to like Brandon Lee and like a lot of like more people that were in the current scene of things, right? So through Tony and Ed, I guess there was like not GTS cruise, but maybe a Toyota cruise.
Mm-hmm.
And then on this cruise, we go around the island and stuff. And then I think the last part was this big, huge dirt lot in an industrial area. And then people would go in and they were like, doing donuts and stuff. And then people were drifting out on this. Well, I don't know if it's drifting, but
yeah.
But through those people, I got to find the lot. And then through my cousin Scott again, the one we would go to his house to, cut our springs and whatnot. He was not into cars that much at that time. He was more into motorcycles, like MotoGP, And then he told us, we'd go watch TV. He's got all the cool channels, and he always told us the best MotoGP guys were like guys who came from the dirt track. And I was like, why would they be the best? And he says, because they're so used to sliding the thing around that they don't care if they slide it around going super fast on the road. I was like, oh, okay. So I kind of put his thing together with the dirt track.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, right there. We just like learn the dirt. And then when you go on the street, it's just, once you start sliding, it's like you're back in the dirt again, right?
Yeah.
So you should know what to do. So I believe, once I put those two together, I kind of grabbed, our crew, which is like a lot of Salt Lake guys next to my house.
Mm-hmm.
My friends, Frankie, Ken, Pedro, Domian, he's another drifter, and our friend Billy, who's from Okinawa. So we would just like, hey, let's go, just all of us rolled down to that place, and then we brought like a cone, and then we started, trying to control the car when it's sliding.
In the dirt?
In the dirt, yeah.
In the dirt.
So we
How
went on there, we
crazy
had
is
like
that?
cones, and then we're just practicing, like making small circles, big circles, kind of like decreasing radius, increase radius, and then transitioning like figure eights.
Yeah.
And we didn't know what to do. We didn't know what the hell we were doing.
It sounds like you guys were doing a full-on drift event in a parking lot.
Yeah. It's all dark and it's all like, dirt and dust everywhere. But we're trying to practice, doing the e-brake 180s, and e-brake to drift. Yeah. Like e-brake initiation.
Wow, I can't imagine like all the dust storm, like dust you guys
everywhere.
kicked up.
It was like all in the car.
Yeah.
Underneath. So every time we come back from, I think they used to call that place Triangle Park. Every time we come back, we just like go in the driveways and we're like shooting down. So man, the street was just full of just dirt because we would bring it back from that area, right? So it was just all over the place.
Oh my God. And Hawaii dirt is not like brown. It's like really bright, right? Like
I think it was bright. Yeah, it was kind of bright. Yeah. So that's how our gang started learning how to drift, and then once we knew it on that dirt thing, then we just started, anytime it rains, we go out and just, drift because it's raining and it's kind of like the dirt track all over again.
Yeah.
And you save tires in the rain. So
yeah.
So what were those first drift session events like for you?
Like the first one was nuts. There was like tons of people.
Yeah.
Everybody was there. Anybody who's like the street racer, everybody who who had like maybe I don't know if they had reputation or something of being an awesome racer or something on talent list. Probably everybody that thought they were drifting. I'm not sure, because I didn't really our gang didn't really hang out with all the cool kids with the cool cars and stuff like that, and in the scene, I guess, called the scene. We weren't really in the scene, we're like kind of off to the side of the scene.
So you're nerds.
And then we're just I don't know, we're just doing whatever we wanted to do, because we're in Salt Lake. Most of the townie guys, like where Roosevelt is, that's where all like a lot of the cool cars are at, and probably more of the car scene down there, right? So the first drift session had lots of people, and it's just everybody who probably thought they were like awesome or drifting, but it was probably a rude awakening, because everybody found out that now you're on a track and you're in front of everybody.
Yeah.
Like it's not just
drifting anymore.
It's not just stories anymore about how good this guy is, right? Like we can all
legends.
see.
You're in front of everybody,
right?
That's why the second drift session had nobody. The first one had everybody. Like it was so cool because everybody brought out their FDs or like Celica GTS.
Beautiful cars.
Civics, Integras. Every racer out there was there to probably like, maybe have fun or whatever. But yeah, after that one, the population went
Right.
down.
It was a filter. It was filtered. So then by the second one, but you showed up to the second one because you were the
I showed up to pretty much all of them. Yeah, first,
Nice.
second, yeah.
What are some of your favorite drift session memories?
I don't know. I have a lot. I mean, what I liked about drift session is that everybody was kind of like a family. Even though we didn't know each other, but we all recognized each other, right? Like
Mhm.
Chris Cam with his Kamaroku, he would
Yeah.
and
His Camaro, for those that don't
Denny
know.
and Kenny, the Cabal brothers,
Yeah.
they all had 240s.
Yeah.
Mato Atako with his 240 SX hatchback. Just like the usual suspects, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure LA was the same,
Yeah,
right?
same.
California. You had your usual guys that
We
were
did.
always there.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we just all became friends and we all loved drifting together, and having fun and, coming close to killing each other.
Right.
But we survived, and you get a lot of like those war stories like, oh my God, I almost hit you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sometimes somebody in front of you end up doing something, whatever happens, right? And then you're behind and you're like, holy, how am I going to get out of this?
Yeah.
Right? I'm either going to knock him out or I'm going to go right into that. There's a guardrail in the Hawaii Raceway Park.
Yeah.
Like, I'm either that way or this way.
Right.
What's going to happen?
What do you
Right.
want? Bad or badder?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I remember those situations a lot. Like,
Yeah.
and it's fun to get out of it, luckily, but sometimes you're not lucky, right?
Yeah.
It's the risk you take. You sign up for that.
Yeah.
So I've heard this story from a couple people. I want to ask you about it. It was about when Kazama and Kumakubo were there for an event. Do you remember that day?
Yeah, if those guys were there, like Kumakubo, I think they brought their cars down. It was super cool, like a S15, I believe Kazama had, and
Yes, when it was
maybe
blue.
a S13 truck.
It
I
was
think.
it was the K truck.
Yeah,
the Sil 80
and then
truck.
they were there and they're drifting. I was like, oh yeah, that's so cool.
Well,
man.
what was it like seeing them?
Yeah, it was, obviously they're super duper good, right? I think that was the era of D1, right? And
Yeah.
they're like really, I mean, Kumakubo,
Mm-hmm.
that guy's like, he can do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Kazama, I think maybe he was around the champ at the time. I forget.
He was doing really well. Yeah. I think, he
Yeah.
was doing really well. Kumakubo was known for being like the best tandem guy.
Right. Yeah. He could just probably just hold on to your car while you're both drifting everywhere.
Yeah.
Like he could do no wrong, right? He was like ordained as the god of drifting.
Yeah, he really was.
Yeah.
So
he was nuts.
So do you remember driving with them?
Yeah, that was fun, man.
Tell me about
I
it.
guess that's like one of the things I really liked about if I ever got to drift with like D1 dudes, because it really like helps push me to like another, maybe out of my comfort zone,
Mm-hmm.
and just do anything and everything I can to try to keep up with these cars, right?
Yeah.
Like I just whatever, like everything's out the door. I'm just trying to keep up with. I forget. I think maybe Kumakubo was in front of me. I forget, but I was just trying my hardest to like keep up.
And
That's
did you
nerve-wracking.
keep up?
I don't know, man. I don't think so.
Okay, so
I think they're just too fast for me. I was just like trying to nail that freaking gas pedal.
Right.
Like, please.
So I want to tell you this story from the perspective of two other people who,
Okay.
they told me this story independently of each other.
Okay.
And the story that I heard was they were on the track and you were following the two of them.
Yeah.
So Kazama's S15 was like 400 plus horsepower, I'm sure. Kumakubo's the K truck, that was like 350 and up. These were high horsepower cars.
Yeah, for
And-
the time, right?
Yeah,
the time.
for the time.
Yeah.
And you were keeping up with them. And this
Oh.
is okay, so Royce told me this. Dave
Oh.
Shimokawa told me this. And
Oh.
and they said, of course, like they would get away from you on the faster parts of the course where there's a straight or something, right? Because they have so much horsepower. but you
Oh,
were
yeah,
you were
yeah.
catching up to them on the corners, and you were close to them in the corners.
Oh, damn. That'd
And
be cool.
yeah, it's like you haven't heard this story before.
You lived
And-
this, bro.
and
I
then-
lived it, but I remember trying my hardest to this, like,
Yeah, and it showed. Not only did it amaze the people watching, like Dave Shimokawa or Royce, but it kind of shocked Kazama and Kumakubo, because
oh,
according to what I hear, they wanted to see what was up with your car, how you were so fast, and when they popped the hood, and your engine was completely stock, 100
yeah,
horsepower.
I think I remember them popping the hood, and I was like, man, I want to put an SR.
They could not believe
they-
you were doing that with what you had.
Oh, man. Yeah, I wish I had some power, to at least, keep up with them better. That would have been nice.
Sounds
you know?
like you
think
didn't
you
really
did.
need it.
Yeah, I think you did fine.
Yeah, but I think, like driving a Hachi is like, oh my God, right? You mess up once, and then it's like you almost have to like climb the whole ladder all over again.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So it's like you cannot make any mistakes, especially in that time. I was like, I cannot make no mistakes, man.
But Stan,
Yeah, I
so
was
you're
like-
go on. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was gonna ask Stan, so now you're in Japan. So how did that happen? When did that happen? I think on everyone's mind is, are you drifting in Japan? So answer all my questions.
Okay. So yeah, like I think that track closed around 2006, and I still wanted to drift, right? And then maybe 2007 they had like those parking lot at Aloha Stadium, and like Barber's Point, we were cleaning out some section to do drifting. We were just trying to find anything to
Yeah.
keep drifting, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that probably like 2007 we were doing that, and each successive year I could just see Hawaii, man.
It was fading, huh?
And I just like, I gotta get out of here, man. I was like,
So
this
that you
place-
can keep drifting.
so I can keep drifting, yeah. So my
Wow.
main goal to come to Japan was just to keep drifting. So from my work, I think I left in 2012, I think, to come to Japan. And it was all for the sole purpose of just, drifting, keep drifting.
Yeah.
But
And what's
Wow.
that
Yeah, it's-
experience like, drifting in Japan?
it's such a different experience.
Is this a good
Just the
thing?
way-
Or?
I don't know. It's not.
Tell us the good and the bad.
Like I thought, when I came to Japan, I was like, man, I want to go Sakia Hills, right? That is a dope track.
Yeah.
So I went there, and then I would watch, and I was like, holy crap, I got to get on this track. But then at that time, I bought that Mark II, and then I thought the fastest way to get on that track is just to have a shop just fix it up, right?
Mhm.
And I didn't know the mentality of, how Japanese work, right? And they take their time
Oh, okay.
Oh.
to make it good.
It's got to be
obviously, but
perfect.
It's a lot of time.
Yeah.
Well, how much
where
time we
I
talking about, and how much money we talking about?
Man. Oh, because the yen rate was so messed up at that time, but I just like was dead set on getting this JZX. I must have paid like 50 grand at least. For
Oh
that
my
thing.
God.
Yeah.
That's the one you have now?
Yeah.
Your JZX 110 Mark II.
Right.
Okay.
And probably 25% of that was just because of exchange rate. So it's actually probably just a $30,000 car.
Yeah.
But man, the exchange rate killed me. But I was so stupid. I just like, I don't care. I want it. I want it. I want it.
Yeah.
And then I just thought the fastest way was just send it to the shop and then have them do it, right? And then that was not the fastest way. So,
How long was that process?
Man, I must have went there like, I don't know, like January or before that, maybe December.
Mhm.
Probably December. Dropped off the car, and then I think I got it back after summer.
No, that
Yeah.
long? Ugh.
And plus, I had to go back there because they didn't want to pull the fenders. I had to go.
Oh.
Originally, they agreed to pull the fender, and then when I went to check out, they're like, "Oh yeah, let's put on this like like these
Oh God.
A little add-on
rivet in."
thing.
Yeah.
I was like,
so
"No,
it looks.
man." I was
So
like,
it has the look.
yeah, I was like, because I'm a Hachi dude, and
Yeah.
I'm used to the pulled fender look. I
Yeah.
wanted to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, in the summer heat, like Japan humid heat, I'm over there
Gross.
like
Yeah. Hammering fenders, rolling
doing
fenders,
the
heating
fenders,
fenders.
pulling the fenders,
Yeah.
chopping the fenders.
Oh
And,
my
I learned all of that
gosh.
from Justin watching him
You
do
should
it
have
on
called
my
him.
car.
Should have flew him
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, I was like, Justin, help me.
He would do it.
Karen's, yeah.
Hey, but
yeah, so
when you got the car
go ahead.
back, how was it? Was it good?
When I got the car back, Sakeo was done. It was totally
Oh,
closed.
you missed it.
So I was like, what the hell? I was like, oh my God. So
All these
I
tracks are
just
closing around you, man.
right. And Sakeo turned into like a solar farm. I was like,
Ugh.
oh no, man. What a bummer. But
Oh.
yeah, I got the car, and then the shop was really nice. They kind of made like a drift day at Autopolis, for them and for me to practice on the car to
Okay.
figure it out. And then I mean, I didn't really like so much lag, and I didn't drive turbo cars before.
Oh,
right?
okay.
I only had my Hachi.
Yeah.
So I felt like that car was more, weaker than my Hachi. Right?
Yeah.
But obviously, when it gets into the band, it's like
Yeah.
superpower, right?
Yeah.
So I had to get used to that. And the thing was like a lumbering,
Big.
like a
Big.
freaking whale, right? It's
Yeah.
like for the longest period of time, that car drove me. I didn't drive that car.
Yeah.
that car went where it wanted to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Until I figured out more stuff about it, where they put these underbody braces
Mm-hmm.
for that car. I guess the construction of the JZX 110 is different from the older ones.
Okay.
So you have to do this where it connects the front to the back to
Okay.
be one kind of solid piece.
Yeah.
After that, it drifted better. Yeah. Our friend Ryan Naka used to live in Yokosuka. I used to live in Nagasaki. So I drove my car up so we could go drift Nikko
Oh man.
Circuit and Fuji Speedway.
Mm-hmm.
And like Maeda Ken
Yeah.
used to be like a famous drifter for Hachirokus. He meet us. He's super cool and nice and funny. So he'll meet us and he'll come drifting with us.
Yeah.
And introduce us to all his like OG friends over there.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, Maeda Ken is dope, man. He's a really nice guy.
What a life.
Yeah.
Jeez. You're spoiled.
Does that feel like you're living the dream, drifting over there around like people that you've looked up to and stuff?
Maybe if I could do it more, like if I was here when Ryan Naka was here, it would probably be a lot better. But I was stuck in Nagasaki.
Tell me
And-
why you feel like it would be better with Ryan around.
Because the friendship, camaraderie, and we'd probably be more into going to the track, more like religiously, how we did in Hawaii, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in Hawaii at that time, Ryan and them were very young kids, like
Right.
Ryan and my cousin Andy. They were up and coming, and unfortunately for them, the track closed when they were getting like really good, like super fast.
Yeah.
It seemed like those two guys were like destined to be awesome. But
Yeah.
Unfortunately the track closed. But I think if I was here, then me and him would feed off of each other, like go places, talk about it more, want to soup up the car,
Right.
want to get better.
So you
stuff like
haven't
that.
found that close knit group of friends to go drifting with, and that makes it not as good for you.
Yeah, I mean, I met a lot of great guys that were, car enthusiasts and stuff. They love driving, hanging out, racing. But yeah, like a regular group to just go drifting with, it was a little bit harder to find that.
Yeah.
But too bad.
What a bummer. You gotta call Justin back. You gotta call him and be like, you gotta come down, bro.
Yeah, I wish
build.
they could all come up here and then we could just like start drifting together again.
I'll close this out with a question for all of our listeners that don't know anything about the early days of drifting in Hawaii. What would you like them to know about your experiences there? What made it special for you?
I mean, basically the kind of like family atmosphere and we had our group, the Hachi dudes, but even the other groups, we all got along and help each other out, and we're all friends with each other. Even though there's different groups, like had like the front wheel drive dudes too, like Kyle Arai and Matt Oshima, like Pray for Rain Matt. Yeah, like a lot of personalities, and it was so fun, with everybody. Everybody had like their own personality or like a saying attached to them.
Yeah.
Like the Pray for Rain. And
what was yours?
Everybody had their little
what
thing.
What was your saying?
Oh, I didn't have a saying. I don't think I had.
You didn't have a saying? I heard I heard Stan the Man. I heard Handsome Stan.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I remember that one too. Yeah. I don't know. I think I forgot how that came up, but one time just people started calling me that.
You don't want to say it.
That.
What are they talking about?
Legit though, like Stan, you look like the guy from Crazy Rich Asians. He does.
Oh, you are handsome.
What's that guy's name? Oh.
I don't remember that
Henry
guy.
Golding.
Henry Golding. You're giving me Henry Golding vibes.
I don't know what was going on back then, man. It was just crazy.
Yeah.
It's good times.
It was fun.
Yeah,
it was really fun.
Well, thanks for doing this interview with us. I know it's early in the morning for you, and you had a long night out the night before, so.
Oh yeah, no problem. Thank you guys, man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry it took so long.
It didn't take long.
No, I just moved, so
yeah.
I couldn't do anything.
The timing was perfect. It was all meant to be.
Yeah, it worked out.
Okay.
And Stan, where can we find you on socials?
I think my name is Angelic.
You don't know your Instagram handle?
No, maybe it's Angelic. Oh yeah,
Angelic JZX.
Yeah.
Maybe Benson will just plug your socials. So, Honey Buns, where can we find Stan on socials?
You can find him on Instagram at Angelic JZX.
There we go. All right, Stan. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you in Japan.
All right.
We're gonna come drive your car. Hope you can find
All right.
We hope you can find an S15 for us too. Cool. Thanks.
Hopefully.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Stan.
Thank you, Stan.
All right.
Okay, guys. Arigato.
All right, guys. Next on our journey back to Hawaii, drifting in Hawaii, Honey Buns, who do we have next?
So for this segment, we have someone who was pretty integral to Drift Session. When you talk about Drift Session and the people that were running it, you hear three names pretty often. You hear Dave Shimokawa, you hear Tom Bryant, and you hear our guest for today, and his name is Mike Kitchens. And you'll see that if you are familiar with Drift Session, if you're familiar with a lot of the videos that they produced, Mike Kitchens was doing a lot of the videos of the competitions. You see him, or you don't see him, you hear him. He's commentating. He's kind of doing the play-by-play about what the drivers are doing, how well they're doing. He's announcing the scores, and so this is my first time actually seeing Michael Kitchens. So
we know the voice, don't know the face.
Now I know his face. So Michael Kitchens, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Aloha, guys.
Aloha. It looks like a beautiful day over there in Oahu.
Yeah, this is just, I use this to remind myself that I'm in Hawaii.
Yeah. Oh, okay. It looks like that every day, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't get outside too much actually lately, so.
Well, thanks for taking the time out to come on the show and let us grill you. We're gonna.
Thank you.
We're gonna go back. Like we're gonna go in the time machine.
Yes. Yeah, I'm gonna have to dust off the cobwebs a little bit actually.
That's right.
It was a while ago, and a lot of stuff has happened since then. So,
yeah, totally. All right.
Yeah, and we're not getting any younger here, and so this is really a good exercise for your memory.
Yeah, I actually just watching the other podcasts, and it's just taking me back to that time period. And it meant a lot. So I really am happy to be here and to talk about this with you guys.
Yeah,
Well,
sure.
We're happy to have you.
Super happy
grill,
to have you.
To grill.
It's okay. I like grilling.
He's down.
Yeah,
Because, I asked the heavy-hitting question.
No. I mean, Mike was also talking about getting ready for Super Bowl tomorrow.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's how I like to eat, obviously. So,
Yes.
we all like to eat. So, Mike, take us back to the beginning. I got a little bit of information about you from Dave Shimokawa, and he said you started with Drift Session in 2004. Is that correct?
Yes, it is actually. So, I mean, I guess if you want from the beginning, I'm actually retired military, and I got hurt while I was over in the United Kingdom, and this is in 2003. And what happened was, I've always been a fan of racing and drag racing and whatnot, and road racing, but when I got hurt, I got bored, and I had LimeWire. So somehow I hit upon a video option video and best motoring and all these other things and drifting Tengoku, and I just got addicted to watching them. It was something to do while I was recovering. And turns to find out, my wife is from Hawaii, and we're going to retire back to Hawaii. So I started digging into what's going on over here, and that's when I found Drift Session.
Very cool. So
it's meant to be.
So before you came to Hawaii, you had already known about all the stuff that was going on with Drift Session?
Yeah. I mean, it's actually interesting because I actually, after consuming all this media and being so amped, and actually I had to relearn how to drive. I bought a simulator. I was doing Gran Turismo with it, trying to get my leg back into a functioning shape. And I started, I'm going to Hawaii. Do they have any racetracks there? And I contacted Thomas Bryant over the phone. I said, listen, I don't have anything going on. I'm going to be retiring there. Can I work at the track? How can I get a part of what you guys are doing? Because I'm aware I saw Drift Session, the website, and what they were doing. And I figured this is a good way to kind of start over because I love the camaraderie that exists with people and motorsports.
Yeah, so do we. It's
And-
the
and
best part.
Yeah, and we really got a sense from our past interviews how strong that camaraderie was. It was a very tight knit family, and even to this day, after all these years, after the track closed, they're still very tightly knit, like great friends. So can you tell us what were you doing for Drift Session when you first started?
When I came to Drift Session, it wasn't just Drift Session. I actually was doing everything at the track. So I was helping Tom Bryant. I was one of the few people that go out there and fill potholes and fix the guardrails after an event, whether it was drifting or if it was time attack. So that's kind of how I started, was just being a extra pair of hands to do stuff. But as we got into it, I noticed that, man, we've got these amazing visuals. And yeah, we had a couple of videos that were going on, like Green Bottle and some of the other things that were going on at the time. But there wasn't really a presence online, specifically from the organization of, hey, here's all this amazing media content. So I was like, hey, can I get some cameras and film this? Would you guys be okay with that? And I had never really done video editing before that, but I gave it a shot. And I think that's one of the things that I played a bigger part in, is just getting that stuff on the web, starting to take photos of every event, getting it concentrated into a form where we can put it on there. Because back then YouTube was, I don't even know if it was a thing really.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
Maybe it had just started, but it's not the YouTube that we recognize today.
Definitely. So it was all media. All of it went to the website. It went to the forums that were there. We had a lot of forums, So it was a little bit all over the place, but it was something very visual, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
Yeah.
And so how did it feel when you first got there? You were seeing drifting in person with these Hawaii drivers. What was your first impression?
It was incredible because they were on a totally different level. When I was in the United Kingdom, I witnessed one of the first drifting events at Silverstone.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they were trying to drift
with D1 GP.
No, it was way before that.
Before
way
D1.
Before
Okay, it was the grassroots stuff.
Right, the grassroots stuff. And these guys were trying to drift Subarus,
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was just a totally different experience come to Hawaii because these guys were on such a higher technical level. And I thought that was amazing. So there's a couple things regards with coming to Hawaii. Number one was the atmosphere and the culture. As you can tell by my speech patterns, I'm very straight-laced. And, over here, it's a little bit more laid back,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it took a little bit of integration. Coming off the military and being off of that whole order kick was different. And Hawaii taught me a lot about family and friendships and bonding and just having good times. And that was something I really hadn't gotten in the military too much because I was bouncing around so much.
Right.
So drift session, coming back and seeing drift session, it really was a change in my life. And it's something that I have really taken to heart in a big way.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah, we hear that a lot. Here on the mainland, it feels like if you get into drifting, or at the time, it felt like if you got into drifting, your goal was to go pro. It was to compete and make a name for yourself, and all of these things that our Hawaii guests have not really talked about. That it was more about doing something fun. It's about having a passion, but it's doing it with your friends, and it's to have a good time, and it's less of the serious stuff that I feel like we got here on the mainland.
I think so. A lot of these guys were just coming to, we would set up in the morning. I mean, I'm speaking from an event perspective, one of the persons behind it. So there's some things that I didn't, for example, partake in, such as the barbecue at people's houses and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
I did less of that. But we would come, set up an event, have a great day of just watching people go at it all day, just hitting it hard. And then by the end of the day, we'd have a barbecue right there at the track. We'd burn a little fire, we'd be hanging out, toss a few back and just relate on how the day went. And that was massive. It was never really about competition. And even the competitions that we had at the end of the day was just kind of to get the guys into this mindset of where they could go, I think. And I think that was really smart of Dave and Tom to actually go with that because they were adding something a little bit more to the event that wasn't there. And obviously, I came in kind of late. I came in mid-2004. The drift session was already at this point where it was rolling along, and I just added a little bit to it. But when it came to the actual participation of the event, it was fun because you could see these guys grow. It was really huge in that aspect. They were growing constantly.
So as someone who was able to, I'm sure you were practically studying some of these drivers because of all the editing you were doing, right? You'd have to watch videos of these guys over and over and over, cut here, paste there, all of that stuff. Can you tell us who are some of your favorite drivers to watch?
I gotta say, first of all, there was a lot of great drivers. There was a lot of beginners kind of there as well, but there were some key focal points I think that I remember would be number one. Not number one, but I mean one of the guys, Barry Wong, obviously. He was hard charging with that Kaz car that he had. Jensen Kona was amazing. Keone Rodriguez, Steve Oliberos, all the guys. Royce, I mean, just Justin, Earl Hang. I could just name just tons of these guys that were just incredible.
So, Mike, you mentioned a couple names, Jensen and Keone. I have not been able to get them on the podcast just due to our format and stuff, but I do know that they were important, and I do hear their names from other drivers a lot.
They've been coming up.
Yeah. Can you describe to the listeners about them, what their personalities were like, and why they stood out on the track?
Well, I'll go over Jensen first. Keone's incredible, but Jensen, I think,
what's Jensen's last name?
Kona.
Jensen Kona.
He did everything hardcore. He would get out there with his 240 and, have no hood on it, huge, intake jutting out of the hood. He was such a character, and he was a serious guy, but he had a lot of fun. He ran this group called Red Handed. And it was him and his friends, and they would just go balls to the wall. I mean, he was one of the most enjoyable people to watch go through the sweeper. Yeah, because he had some power in his car, and he could really just hang it out there and get that smoke trail, through it.
Yeah, that intake standing straight up from no hood intake standing straight up. The first time I saw that, actually, I think I did see that from the drift session site. but he actually made the cover of Drift Tengoku with his car like that.
Yeah, that was awesome when they came down here. And as you guys already know, that there was a lot of Japanese drivers that came over. And I think it's due to the proximity, the fact that we were regularly going to Japan, to Taz, to, introduce ourselves and get these guys to come over. It was a really good cross-cultural thing going with them. And Drift Tengoku, when they came over, that was so awesome. These guys got some coverage. They got some exposure to Japan. And I always thought that was neat because I thought that a lot of the guys here really followed after the Japanese drifting style.
Oh, definitely.
For sure.
It was very obvious that's where it came from.
Keone, this is from an event organizer perspective. So one of the other gentlemen that was involved in this was Chris Messer. And Chris Messer is a former international racing school instructor down for Hawaii. And when Keone came in, he was really raw. Like, street drifting is all he knew. He didn't understand rules and requirements and other things that are. And he actually got in trouble a couple times. No offense.
It happens. It happens, especially when you're young.
Right. And he actually got punished for a little bit and was told he couldn't come back. But one of the things that happened with him is that he took it upon as a challenge. When he came back, man, he was incredible where he went. He was wild. Obviously, he was always wild. That was one of the greatest things about Keone.
Yeah.
He was wild. But he came back with this focus. He had an underpowered vehicle.
Yeah.
Right? I think he was running just NA or something. I can't remember exactly what it was. But he was running an underpowered vehicle. But he could push it to its maximum limits. And he was doing stuff that just was unbelievable. I remember we got a shot of him going through the sweeper, and he was drifting with his knees, with both hands out the window. And I took the picture, and I looked at it, I was like, he's got both hands out the window. What is he doing? How does he do that? And the sweeper is the most dangerous part of the track, and yet there he was. I mean, and he really has skill, and he was just doing amazing stuff. He was one of my favorite people to photograph.
Yeah.
I didn't mention Shige Hirabayashi. He was great.
Yeah, can you tell us about Shige, because he comes up a lot too in our discussions.
Yeah, he was right on the level of Barry, I think. I always look at Barry and Shige as being kind of dual partners.
Yeah.
They were always kind of hanging out with each other. And
they did a lot of tandem practice together, right, towards the end.
Yeah, I do want to kind of mention that. So back then, from what I remember, and this is just my perspective, but I remember that a lot of the mainland drifting at the time was mostly open parking lots.
Yes.
And HRP was a totally different beast. You go off 10 feet coming out of the past the gatehouse, and you'd be right into a concrete wall. It didn't, and that was one of those places where your automatic reaction was to swing to the right.
Right.
And if you didn't do it right, that's it. Your car's done.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, one of the things that made our drivers so good at the time, is because they were drifting on a very dangerous track. And they were just, if you only did it a few times, you either quit or you came back and understood, hey, I gotta come at this a certain way. And we had a lot of incidents where people just nailed the wall. They went into the trees. Royce, for example, is that infamous, into the fence thing. Yeah, exactly right. That was crazy because the car went like that.
Yeah.
We had people roll over in the sweeper. Yep. It was just not. I'm doing track design now, and I look back at HRP, and it was insane how dangerous that track was. We had fence posts that were only 5 feet away from the road.
Right.
Just by itself. Right. There was somebody who was too lazy to pull it out, and it was just sitting there, and I can't believe that, how dangerous it was, but nobody ever really got hurt.
Also, that sweeper, the fastest part of the track, would go into like a tight little window where you had to get on the straight, right? If you're offline or, at those speeds, it's real easy to mess up.
You're basically climbing a wall of tires, and it was shaped like that. It looked like a volcano of tires, and you just whoop, and then that was it. You're over.
Yeah.
And the skill that these guys had, the really good guys, they would go into that sweeper so hard, so fast, and you'd see them have to correct midway to go around those tires. And I was like, man, it is so Japanese style.
Yeah.
Being able to correct at the last moment, because it wasn't necessarily all horsepower. It's not like how it is now where you got like 1,000 horsepower cars. These guys were just jamming it in 300, 400 horsepower cars, sometimes even less than that.
Yeah.
So, the ability to go in there and be able to correct midway, I think that was something that became very important. They were facing a challenging track.
Right.
I actually, just to give you a heads up, so if you've never been to Hawaii Raceway Park and you don't know about it, I recreated it like as close as I could to the original track using a ton of photos that I've already taken and video and stuff. And it's actually available as a download for Assetto Corsa, free on Race Department.
Yeah, Mark just showed me that this week.
Oh my gosh.
I think I really tried to capture what it was like, and I think anybody that gets on the track realizes it was a very simple track. But once it got from the chicane to the off camber to the sweeper, you really got to know what you're doing down there.
Nice.
Very cool. But I think we got on this subject because we were. I mentioned Shige and Barry being good at tandem. Is there something you wanted to say about tandem?
Oh, I'm sorry. So tandem itself was something that was kind of thrown in there, I guess, right about the time period where I started to come in. And it was kind of a trust factor, because if you messed up during tandem, that was pretty much it. You were going to take out somebody else's car. And of course, these guys are just running off of, their 9-to-5 job, right? No sponsorship. But these guys picked it up really fast. And they got to the point where they were busting through the sweeper tandem quite easily. And it was a natural progression in some way. It wasn't because we were forcing it. It was because they were watching the same videos, for example, that I was watching, and they were seeing the tandems, and they're like, let's do it. So like Barry, Shige, Jensen, Keone, all these guys, Steevo, were just starting to get to the point where we'd have 4 cars, just like the old video option videos where they're just in sequence coming through.
Right.
And one of the things that was amazing about Hawaii Raceway Park is there was a lot of elevation change from the off camber to the sweeper. Visually, I think one of the most exciting things was doing reverse course sweeper, because these guys would come barreling in through the sweeper and then be switchback on an uphill into an off camber.
Yeah.
And it was just so visually spectacular. And you could see it from halfway across the track.
Yeah. So you also talked about going to Tokyo Auto Salon. You said TAS, but I want to clarify for people that don't know, it's Tokyo Auto Salon. You visited there often, and was that your way? Was that how you guys were able to get all of these famous Japanese drivers to the track in Oahu?
I think it was amazing because Thomas Bryant is actually from Okinawa originally, and he could speak Japanese fairly fluently. He was a great connection, but him and Dave were going over there and talking to Kuma Kubo. They were talking to Signal Auto. They were talking to all these Japanese heroes, essentially. And they did a great job of getting those gentlemen over here to play and to party. And the relationships that we created were amazing, but these guys really came over. And they just blew our guys away as far as, the visuals they were providing. And that just created this urge and this desire to be as good as them.
Yeah.
So
I don't think that there was anyone else in the States that was doing that, like forming these relationships with these guys and bringing them over for U.S. drivers to grow.
Well, it was the early days.
Yeah.
It was when everything was just starting to come over. And for example, Formula Drift really wasn't even a thing then. And obviously America took it and ran with it. And they're on an incredible level of skill. And they take everything to extremes, obviously,
Yes,
right?
yes.
It's crazy. I went to one of the first drift events at Irwindale and did photos of there. And it's amazing how far we've come since then. But Hawaii has a place in it. And I really appreciate the fact that you guys are doing these podcasts, because I think it's important to recognize that we all had to start from somewhere.
Yeah.
And Hawaii was, even though we were geographically separated from the mainland, there was an important component to that transition, bringing that over, getting it popularized. People started to realize, well, what could this be and what will it be? And I think it all kind of started between then and the events, the events that were starting on the mainland as well. But it was a significant time. It really was.
Yeah, I see that you kind of identify that that the way that Hawaii grew its drifting culture is a little bit different than mainland, right? Can you elaborate on that? What were the differences? What made Hawaii unique?
Well, I think like I said earlier, the fact that we were drifting on a track was immense.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that it was continuous run.
Right.
That these guys would just get out there and do laps and laps and laps and laps and laps and laps and
Right.
laps. That's basically what it was. They would basically get all morning to just run. It wasn't stop start. It wasn't start finish like you're running an event. It was just you get out there and you just do it. We also had 2 different programs. We had DS1, DS2. So DS1 was just for the beginners. Those guys could get there and just practice on one turn. So that the rest of the guys who were more advanced, they would be off at DS2 and just be cranking it out.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things. The fact that they did have a lot of people come over to teach them ueo, watching Hibino, come over and kind of shed their skills over. Even Kenji Yamanaka was coming over, and it was interesting to watch these guys get in the car with them and get ride-alongs.
Yeah.
Either as a passenger or the driver. I mean, to have Ueo teaching you
Yes.
how to drift.
Yes.
Especially the Hachi guys. That was, I was watching the Hachi guys the whole entire time.
Yeah.
And those guys were just in awe. Their faces, their mouths dropped open, and it was like watching, like a little kids following around their mentors. It was amazing.
Yeah, I want to reiterate. I mentioned this in the last episode, but we had famous drivers come to the mainland. But they did not come over the same way that they came over to you guys, because they came over here to compete, or they came over to do demos. They did not come to our grassroots events, and they did not get in the cars with us and instruct us. It was more of like they put on a show, and we had to absorb as much as we could and mimic it.
Yeah. I mean, back then everybody was just trying to learn it, right?
Yeah.
It was an enjoyable time period, and I think those drivers that came over and that we still talk to, I want to see every single one of those guys back. Because all of them, I want to see them back here doing it again sooner or later.
So can you bring us to the last event at HRP? And so you were, I'm sure that was a very emotional day, long time coming. You guys knew about it pretty in advance, and so let's go to the last day. Tell me about that.
I mean, it's difficult because that's it. And for me, it was a big deal because I had been moving every 2 years while I was in the military. And this is the first place where I really got to sit down and grow roots. And to see all these people that we were uncertain of what we were going to do. What brought us together was drifting. And, each one of us have our own different lifestyles. We have family, kids. But the one thing that brought us all together, even though I wasn't a driver, was drift session. It didn't matter whether spectators or participants. That last day was very hard from a certain standpoint in that there was uncertainty. I had a lot of optimism because I felt that we were going to get something new and that we were going to be able to do it, because I was a big supporter of trying to build the track back then. And I felt that, well, we can make this happen. We can make it change. We can bring something back. So I was more hopeful. But there was a bit of sadness to it, I think that one of the biggest things was the banquet that we had. Every year we had a drift session banquet where we'd bring everybody together. And I remember showing these guys this compilation video that I did of everybody from 2005 to 2006 and showing them just how good they were.
Yeah.
I don't think people really realized. I took all the best shots and put them all together in one big thing. And it's just, when you watch it, and you can watch it online probably still now. If not, I'll upload it. But it's just, wow, these guys were on another level back then. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to take that further, but just knowing that we weren't going to have the place to take it further was really hard.
Right.
Were you guys all like crying and like, did you try, and then, you have to close and stop the event at a certain time, but like, was it just like the Keonis were just, the Keone came out and everyone like, no, one more.
I think, well, no, we shut it down. I mean, we shut it down. I mean, not like we closed the gates. We shut it down. Like, we went beyond what we were supposed to do that day,
Yeah.
There was a lot of burnouts and chokudoris, and all the good stuff going on. But it was one of those things where I don't think there was it hadn't hit us. Mm. We weren't at that level where we were freaking out, and this is never going to see this again.
Right.
It was, there is a little bit of
you all had some hope.
Right, exactly. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I always imagine, maybe Mike, you're there all the drivers have left, and then it's like, those sitcoms where it's the very last episode, and you watch the whole sitcom inside this house scene, and then they sadly turn off the light and then walk out the door.
Shut the door.
Yeah.
Right. I just, as soon as you mentioned, I was like, yep, I got you.
Yeah.
We shut the gates basically.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen until April 2006, which was one of the saddest parts because it was like April Fool's Day.
That's
You know
what
what I
I
mean? Is this a
heard.
joke?
Was everyone sure it was really going to happen?
No, there's a lot of people, even me, I was just like, man, is this for real? Come
Yeah.
on, we can't just go. I mean,
Right.
it was really complicated, the reasons why the track closed, and I can't go into it, but it's one of those things where, looking back now, it didn't have to close.
Oh.
It was a purposeful decision that closed it.
What a tragedy.
So, yeah, and it really was, because you're not talking about just drifting.
Right.
You're talking about the track was built in 1962.
Yeah.
It was the home for racing for decades, and
Yeah.
not only for drifting, but for everything.
All
Right.
sorts.
Drag
Every other
racing,
sport.
road racing.
Motocross.
Dirt
Right.
track,
Motocross
all that
was
stuff.
big.
Yeah. And even outside of the track, you have all the businesses surrounding motorsport.
A vast amount that have, we just had our, like, for example, Ron's Performance Center, they finally closed last year. They had held on as best as they could, but without enthusiasts here to use their parts, there's no reason to be open. There's no reason really to tune.
Right.
There's show and looks, but, it's limited. Not to mention with the advent of Amazon and all these other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things have changed.
Yeah.
What
But it was sad.
stands now where HRP used to be?
It's been completely raised, and I actually have a lot of pictures that show when somebody took a backhoe to it and just purposely destroyed all the roads, so it couldn't be condemned,
Right.
which was unfortunate. That's when you saw the tower burnt down. Even right now I'm getting choked up thinking about it, because it represents something so immense, and to see it, burnt to shreds and the concrete and asphalt torn up.
Yeah.
That was really hard to see, because you could never go back. It's gone.
Right.
And now it's just basically warehousing and industrials. The drag strip, the end of the drag strip, is just turned into a bunch of warehouses. So it's kind of incredible, too, because it's not completely gone. If you go out there, you can see past a certain point the end of the drag strip.
Oh, wow.
It's still there. So you can still feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That spot. It's still there.
She's there
I
still.
just got chills.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's like that every time when you go out there.
Yeah.
Wow. So let's fast forward. I mean, over the years, you had a lot of hope. Everybody on the show said that they held on to hope, and they want another racetrack.
They still have their cars.
And they still have their cars in their garage rotting away, but they're like, it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen. But it's been how long now?
It's been a long time, since 2006. So
2006.
I mean, gosh, over 15, 16 years,
16
right?
years.
So
And there's
17.
something you're passionate about. So tell us, what's been going down? Like, what have you been, you're passionate about the track. You're hopeful. You wouldn't take no for an answer. Like, this is just we'll see you later. We're going to do another track. How has that affected your life, and what have you been doing about it?
Well, in 2004, we knew that the track was going to close. So there was an effort at that point being put on by the owners of the track, or the leaseholders of the track, to try and move to this world-class facility they were trying to build. So I jumped on board and became part of that effort. I helped to do the first cruise for it, Capitol Cruise. I mean, we had like 500-something people at the Capitol with their cars on the lawn. We weren't supposed to do that, but I mean, that was like a kickoff point where Build the Track became this thing.
Yeah.
But the thing is there's been so many efforts by so many people and so many different projects, and it's been a constant factor for several people, including myself. But it is something that I've lived for many years. I've dedicated almost 20 years just under 20 years to trying to build the track here. And it's not for financial gain. It's not for anything like that. It's because of understanding what we're missing: the camaraderie, the family, the mentoring, the youth guidance, the opportunity to teach our kids, a safe way to drive, in a safe environment. Those things are just massive, and they're missing. We don't have that.
Yeah.
So every year, nonstop since 2004, I've been involved in some effort to promote the idea, whether it's doing letter campaigns or talking to representatives and senators. And I did every I think personally, just from my own perspective, I tried to go down every avenue I could from a public perspective, working with the city or state to happen. And it's a luxury, unfortunately, for them. They have more pressing issues like infrastructure and the idea of us putting money towards building a racetrack. They just don't see it. They don't understand the impact. They don't understand the economic impact, jobs, all the good stuff. They don't get it. So I gave up on that. I just said, listen, it's time. We got to do private. The only way this is going to get this built is somebody comes with some money, buys some land, and starts to build it. So everything I've done has led up to the point where now, that's where I'm going, with this. We've got to build a track. It's time.
Yeah. It's been time. That's so exciting. Oh, okay. Awesome.
And so how's your outlook? It's 2022. How's your outlook on getting the track built?
Positive. We're doing it.
Good.
I have no doubt in my mind. There's many times, like I said, there's several projects that came and went. I think I put together, for example, myself, just an incredible team of people that it's no longer a locally. We don't know how to build a track here. Way back in the 1960s is the last time we built a track here.
Right. Hasn't been done in modern day.
No, and that's the thing, and things are different now. You can't just go plop a piece of asphalt.
Right.
You'll get in trouble if you don't ever do it the right way.
You can't just find a place and say, stick your flag down and say, "Look, this is mine. I'm building a racetrack here."
Unfortunately, it's just there's too many regulations, permitting, all this good stuff that's really dry, and you don't want to hear it. But it's hard. Yeah. It's really hard, and I don't think people really. There's some people that don't understand that. Oh, just go build the track. Just go build it.
Yeah.
And it's not like that anymore. There's so much stuff you have to go through. And what I kind of looked upon is, well, we need to reach out beyond. Because Hawaii, when you think about it, Hawaii is already a destination. It is an amazing place to go to. It's on a lot of people's walls. It's the place they want to see and they want to do. The one thing that we've really never had is this international focus on motorsports. Mm-hmm. And what I've done with my track efforts is I'm working with the FIA. I've gone to the FIA and asked for design approval on our project. We're taking to the point where it will be an international facility, but it's being done in a way so that we aren't putting the cost of all of that on the local driver, the local participant. You could come in through the gate and pay a small amount that's similar to how expensive it was to run at HRP. Yeah. And be able to get in because we're doing all these other things. Right. And I just think that's the way to go because the city and state, they're building a $12 billion rail. They're building, I don't know how many millions of dollars stadium. Yeah. The pandemic, everything. I can't expect anything from them anymore, right. I don't think, unfortunately.
Well, can you tell the listener if they want to find out more information about your track efforts, where can they go?
I appreciate that. It's Circuit Hawaii. It's part of our Build the Track movement as a BTT. You can find us on Instagram at Circuit Hawaii or at Build the Track. They're both kind of mutually the same. We're on Facebook as well. We've done a really good job, I think, of putting this together and bringing it to where it's really close to fruition. We've got an international team of people who are building and designing it, and along with the local people here too. And I think it's going to. I firmly believe it's going to happen.
That's really so exciting.
Yeah, I hope so. That would be my biggest wish for everyone on Hawaii to have a racetrack to go explore their passions on, with whether it's drifting, drag racing, whatever it is. But there's too much culture there that is on pause right now, and I hope you guys get a track. I hope you guys get it soon, and I hope it starts where it left off.
Yeah.
I think it will. I really do. Hawaii has it. These guys have it.
And then you'll get to drive, Mike.
Yeah, that's one of the things. Yeah, I have an RX-7, so I have an FD.
Oh, nice.
And its poor thing is neglected right now. It's been up on jack stands for I don't know how long. Great motor, horrible exterior, but it's just waiting for it. I've taken all the money that I would normally put in my car, and I put every cent into this thing, this whole track project. But I just can't wait. That's the key. Go open the track. I'm gonna build my car, right? And there we go.
That's so exciting.
Well, you're definitely invested in more ways than one.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a big deal. It really is. It's been difficult, I think, from a public perspective, for people to understand just how difficult it is. Yeah. But I think the payoff will be worth it once we get it open and we have all this stuff happen: education, jobs,
Yeah.
We're diversifying. It's going to change the state. I have no idea. It's going to change the state, not just the island.
Yeah.
But the type of facility that we're building here is going to be a major impact. And then people will realize how important it was and why it was necessary to build it.
That's so exciting.
Best of luck.
We wish you the very best. Can't wait. And I can't wait to see your FD on the track. It'll be dope. So thank you so much, Michael, for taking the time out and reminiscing with us and sweeping all those cobwebs out.
Yeah.
You were good.
Yeah,
like
you
you
did
remembered. Good. Like you remembered full names. I'm impressed.
Yeah, no, that was hard actually. I feel kind of bad because there's some guys that'd be like, man, what about me? But no,
just blame it on Mark. Say Mark edited it. Yeah.
I gotta say, if I could just say one thing to the guys, the OGs, you know what I mean? That was a special time. Watching them develop and become some of the best drivers I think I'd ever seen. That was a real pleasurable experience. And, they're so good. These guys are so awesome. They're kind. They're not mean-spirited. It wasn't competition-based. It was just good times, good people, green bottle. It was awesome. Yeah. And I really want to bring that back. I want to see that back.
Yeah.
That's definitely.
Me too.
Same. Leighton will get some GTRs for us and some 240s, and then we'll be there, and then we'll be
Sounds
there.
Good. Sounds good.
Down.
We'll hook it up then, for sure.
I'm manifesting that.
Very good.
Right.
All right.
There you go.
All right. Thank you, Michael. We'll see you soon.
Aloha.
All right.
And that wraps up our 2-episode series on drifting in Hawaii. Remember, this episode is sponsored by Information. Guys, please follow us on Instagram at SaladyMania, and you can visit us at podcast.saladymania.com and check out our YouTube channel featuring videos and photos of our guests from today's interview. Leave a message on our hotline too. Make sure to leave us your questions and comments and tell us about the first time you fell in love with drifting. Leave your message or text to 323-607-6075. Once again, 323-607-6075. And guys, we'll see you in the next one.